Mao was an evil demon lord who tried to conquer the world but was defeated by a beautiful girl hero. After becoming broke and powerless, he decides to live a normal human life and rises up the same girl who now wants him to defeat her in bed.
Just put it down.
It all begins in a battle-torn world called Isla, where Mao, the demon lord, and his generals try to wipe out the humans, but a hero arises and together with her allies, they decimate Mao's forces. Finally, when they were on the verge of ending the demon lord for good, he plans to escape to another world with his right-hand man, but promises to return and destroy the world. Moments later, Mao and Ashia arrive on Earth and are horrified to find out they now have human bodies. Just then, they get approached by a cop who mistakes them for cosplayers and tries to get them in his car. However, Ashia raises his hands expecting thunder, but gets hit with an air of disappointment instead. After, they get taken to the police station, where Mao hypnotizes the cops into giving them information about the world. When they leave, Mao tells Ashia that he discovered that on Earth, sorcery only exists in novels. Upon hearing this, Ashia tries to cast a spell to see if Mao is right, but instead of a chariot of fire, he summons an auto-driven taxi. After, they decide to play by the world's rules till they figure it out. So they create bank accounts by hypnotizing the bank staff and visit a real estate agency to get a house. Later that night, Mao explains that they'll have to work their pants off to attain their objective, when he suddenly passes out and gets rushed to the hospital. After he gets discharged, Mao complains about his frail human body and the hospital bills that cost more than their rent. He then realizes that money makes the human world go round, so after getting home, they fill out resume forms and pick fake names for their job hunt. Some days later, on his way to work, Mao waits at the lights with an umbrella when a girl drenched in rain and stops beside him. Noticing her, Mao gives her his umbrella since his workplace is nearby and rides off in the rain. Later at work, he gets approached by Chiho, a colleague, who then tells him how amazing he was handling the customers. In response, Mao says he's been studying hard for it, since he's just a part-timer. While he works, thinking he's in God mode, he realizes the machine stopped working. Mao then figures his perfect employee streak is about to be broken, so he panics and wonders if he should use what's left of his magic to fix the machine. Coincidentally, Kisaki shows up and asks what went wrong. A few moments later, while Mao sulks and Chiho tries to make him feel better, Kisaki shows up and asks to talk to Mao. While he sits in her office wondering if he's about to get fired for the umpteenth time, Kisaki walks in and announces that he's being promoted to a full-time employee. Excited, Mao heads home celebrating, but bumps into the girl whom he gave his umbrella to that morning. She then reveals she went to his workplace and watched him from the bookstore across the street, so she asks if he tried to use his magic. Hearing this, Mao freaks out while the girl asks why an overlord works at a McDonald's caricature. Just then, Mao realizes she's the hero Emilia. Surprised, Mao asks Emilia what she's doing on Earth, and she explains that she followed him through the gate to end him. Shocked, Mao suggests they talk things over, but Emilia draws a short knife and tells Mao to prepare to be gutted. Just then, Mao asks what she's doing with a kitchen toy set instead of her sacred sword, but Emilia says it's none of his business. When Mao insinuates that she's lost her powers, Emilia says she can sense that he is a weakling compared to what he was in Enter Isla. Suddenly, she charges towards him, but they soon land in a police station, where a cop asks why they were fighting. So Emilia says she was trying to end Mao, but the confused cop suggests they end the lovers' squabble. Annoyed by this, Emilia, who says she'd date a frog if he were the last man on Earth. While they head home, Emilia announces that she'll be sparing Mao for the night, but she tells him to watch his back since she knows where he lives. Mao then comments that she doesn't sound heroic, but Emilia says the last person she'd want to hear that from is an overlord who flips burgers for a living. The next day, at a customer call service center where Emilia works, a colleague suggests they try out McDonald's, but Emilia says it's the last place she'd want to visit. After work, Emilia heads back to her boring life, but freaks out when she can't take it anymore. Some moments later, she shows up at Mao's door and comments on the Matchbox apartment while Mao tries to defend his space. To make matters worse, Emilia asks if their dinner recipe was inspired by a gory crime scene. Since Emilia won't stop roasting them, Mao admits they're broke, making Emilia blame herself for always going after the young, dumb, and broke. When Ashia asks Emilia about her comrades, she narrates that she was the only one who made it through the gate. Afterward, Mao explains that his new world domination project will start from his Matchbox apartment. However, since Emilia doubts his ability to pull it off as a part-time burger flipper, Mao reveals his plans to conquer the country by becoming a full-time employee and piling up enough money to make people kneel before him. Unimpressed by his pipe dreams, Emilia says he's being ridiculous. But Mao says he doesn't expect a dim human like her to understand his lofty goals. So, Emilia decides to leave. The next day, while Emilia stakes out Mao's crib, Mao hurriedly heads out and tells Ashia that they need to take a bloody bath. Meanwhile, Emilia hears wrong and wonders whose blood is about to be spilled. To her surprise, they ended up in a bathhouse where she also spent her evening listening to the snooze fest. The next day, Emilia turns down Rika's hangout request again to stake out the Overlord's house. But to her disappointment, the idiots were busy rubbing their cucumbers with honey. So, the next day, Emilia shows up at Mao's workplace and asks to talk to him after work. But Mao pretends she is just any other customer. After she leaves, Chiho asks Mao if Emilia is his friend, but Mao says they have a weird relationship, so Chiho goes off, blabbing about how pretty Emilia looks. After work, Chiho asks Mao if he was alright during the previous day's earthquake. Just then, Mao realizes there was one and says that his roommate didn't notice it. Shocked, Chiho asks Mao if he lives with his girlfriend, but he responds by saying he lives a broke life with an old friend of his. Later, Mao meets up with Emilia, and she reveals she's been watching him and observed that he's been living a simple life. In addition to this, Emilia states that she'll spare him if he chooses to live out his life on Earth. In response, Mao asks if she enjoys watching two guys sleep together for the rest of their lives, but Emilia insists that he give up on Inta-Ila. So, Mao refuses and says he'll definitely return to conquer Inta-Ila. Suddenly, his bike gets hit, and while he throws a tantrum over his flat tire, the bicycle gets hit by more bullets, so they realize they're being shot at. Suddenly, Mao jumps to save Emilia, but she tells him to get off her. When the bullets won't stop, they both decide it's not a good time to bicker, so they run. Afterward, while they catch their breath, Emilia asks where the attacks came from, and Mao reveals it must be someone considerably powerful who knows their true identities. When Emilia asks if someone like that could exist on Earth, Mao blames her for picking the wrong time and spot to meet. After an argument, Mao takes his leave and tells Emilia to watch her back on her way home. To his surprise, Mao meets Emilia in front of his house and asks if she's trying to take him out. But Emilia reluctantly asks if he could let her stay over at his place since she lost her purse. Afterward, Ashia gets the shock of his life when Mao shows up with Emilia, so he freaks out, saying he's never heard of an overlord bringing a hero over late at night. Mao then explains her situation to Ashia and invites her in. He then tosses a blanket and some money at Emilia while telling her to get on the first train in the morning. When Ashia makes a big deal out of this, Emilia angrily goes to sleep, wishing she had stayed back in her world. The next morning, Mao and Ashia find a bowl of pickles and wonder where it came from. Just then, they figure it must have been Emilia's way of thanking them for letting her stay. Meanwhile, at Chiho's house, she recalls her chat with Mao and blushes when he accepts her request to hang out later in the day. Just then, Chiho's mom asks if she's going to work, but Chiho says she's got plans. However, when her mom tells her to be careful, Chiho fidgets, thinking she's about to get lectured on how to use protection. But to her relief, her mom is just worried about the muggings reported on the news. At Emilia's workplace, she gets a call from a strange caller who knows her true identity and says that it was fun watching the hero team up with the Overlord. When he reveals that it is in Ta'ila's will that they both get eliminated, Emilia freaks out. Just then, she wonders who it is since Ashia is the last surviving general of the Overlord. So she asks the caller who he is, but the caller promises to stay in touch and ends the call. Afterward, while Rika asks Emilia if they could grab lunch, she gets bailed out by a call from the police. Some minutes later, Emilia furiously signs some documents at the police station, while Mao and Ashia realize they aren't as invincible as they always thought. Just then, Emilia shows up angry and screams at them for making her a guarantor for criminals, but Ashia tells her to act like a hero. When they get out, Emilia tells Mao that she got a threatening call at work and adds that they're both targets. While she fumes about being the one who can end Mao's life, he reminds her she's in public. So Emilia tells him to stay alive till she puts him in the ground and hurries off. On their way home, Ashia asks Mao about his date with Chiho and suggests they check out a place. To Mao's surprise, they end up at a clothing store where Ashia tries to get him some new drip. When he eventually finds the right one, Mao asks Ashia where he got the money to pay for the clothes, but Ashia reveals he's got some secret savings for rainy days. When Mawu says the date is nothing serious, Ashia gets in his face and makes him realize he's officially in the dating zone. Afterward, Chiho meets up with Mawu, and when he compliments her looks, Chiho points out that he looks cooler than usual. She then suggests they head to a cheap cafe where they can relax, but Mawu tells her he'll foot the bills. Not long after, Emilia catches Ashia spying somewhere in the underground station and startles him. When she asks what he's up to, Ashia says it's none of her business, but Emilia insists she can't ignore demons acting suspiciously. She then checks out the cafe nearby and spots Mawu at a table with Chiho. Suddenly, she grabs Ashia and asks what they plan to do with the girl. In response, Ashia reveals that Mawu has no evil intentions, but since Emilia wouldn't let him be, he decides to spill. After this, Emilia asks why the date was necessary, and Ashia reveals that Chiho has a crush on Mawu. So Emilia checks Chiho out, and when she realizes that her tiny bits are nothing compared to Chiho's milk-away orbs, she says there's no point keeping guard outside. She then heads into the cafe, while Ashia tries to stop her. Meanwhile, in the cafe, Chiho reveals that she heard a weird voice announce that some weird incidents might be happening in her world, and a big one might happen soon. When Chiho adds that the voice spoke in an unknown language which she strangely understood, Mawu figures the communication technique used to synchronize human minds must be the ideal link. While Mawu thinks of how this works, he spills some hot coffee on himself when he spots Emilia walking in with Ashia. Chiho then worries about him, but Mawu is focused on Emilia, who gives him a chilling stare. Just when Chiho points out that Mawu is a nice guy and tries to confess her feelings, Emilia shows up like a plot twist nobody asked for and endlessly talks about how cruel Mawu is. Chiho tells her to quit saying awful things and asks how she's related to Mawu. In response, Emilia explains that she's his enemy, but when Mawu tries to calm them down, he gets shut up by both ladies. After this, Chiho recalls that Emilia once visited Mgronald's and asks if she's Mawu's ex. Annoyed by her question, Emilia slams the table, so Chiho assumes she's right and says she can make her move on Mawu however she wants. While the duo go back and forth in a heated argument, the building suddenly gets hit by a massive earthquake. Afterward, Chiho awakens beneath the rubble and finds Emilia, who then announces that they're trapped. Chiho then asks if Mawu is okay, but Emilia says countless people would rejoice if he died. After this, Emilia reassures her that Mawu is alive and introduces herself while explaining she's not a thing with Mawu. When Chiho reciprocates the gesture, Emilia asks her what she likes about Mawu since she's smitten by him. Suddenly, Chiho gets defensive, but eventually admits to it. However, Emilia says she'll only get her little heart broken in the long run. After this, she puts Chiho to sleep and asks Mawu to show himself. Just then, Mawu steps out of the dark in his demon form. So, Emilia figures his powers must have returned while Mawu wonders how he's going to explain away his look. Just when Emilia thinks of summoning her sword to finish him off, Mawu tells her to take care of Chiho while he helps the others. While Mawu takes apart the rubble to rescue people, Emilia wonders if he's forgotten what it means to be a villain. Some minutes later, while standing outside the rubble, Emilia flashes back to her childhood days and recalls how she hung out with her father at his farm and heard of the Overlord's army attacks. Her father had said that they had nothing to worry about since their continent was protected by the church. However, one day the cardinal showed up on their farm, and her father informed her that she had to go with them, since she was the daughter of an angel and the only human who could defeat the Overlord. After they left, the village was burned to the ground by the Overlord's forces. Suddenly, Mawu interrupts her trip down memory lane, and when he asks if she's okay, Emilia says she doesn't need him worrying about her. After she notices he's back to his bum version, Chiho joins them. A cop then tries to make them leave, but spots Chiho and asks if she's the daughter of an inspector. When Chiho confirms this, the cop leaves to get her pops, while Mawu flashes back to his first day on Earth. Facing Chiho, Mawu says he knows she wouldn't want her father to find out she was on a date when the earthquake happened and takes his leave. Afterward, Mawu explains to Emilia that he used magic on Chiho's dad when he arrived on Earth, and it must have affected Chiho by making her hear the voices. After this, Emilia asks Mawu about his plans, and he reveals that someone somehow caused the disaster to get them. So Emilia asks about the enemy's identity, but Mawu explains that the person was close and couldn't follow through because he gained his powers back. Concerned, Emilia asks if he knows who it might be, but their conversation gets interrupted by Rika. When Emilia leaves to meet her, Ashia runs up to meet Mawu and apologizes for failing at his duties. However, Mawu says it's time to go home and asks if he's hurt. Meanwhile, Emilia hangs out with Rika at her house and is served a bowl of food, which she empties in a matter of seconds. Afterwards, Rika talks about the recent muggings and adds that she'd like a bodyguard like Emilia's. Annoyed, Emilia debunks having a bodyguard and states that Mawu means nothing to her. The next day, Emilia shows up at Mawu's door, making him wonder if she wants some. But when she puts an envelope through the door opening, Mawu thinks he's about to be blown up. However, Emilia says it's the refund of the money he lent her for the train ride home. Immediately, Mawu grabs the envelope to check it out and asks Emilia about her promise to leave him alone for a while. But she says it's not happening since she became his guarantor. Mawu then asks Emilia if she's alright, but she retorts, saying she doesn't need her enemy worrying about her. Mawu then tells her to piss off, so while she angrily leaves, Mawu peeks to tell her to be mindful of the stairs, but she suddenly trips and falls. Some moments later, Ashia wonders how she could conquer the world, but not a flight of stairs. After rummaging through a med kit to help her out, Ashia can't find what he needs, so Mawu suggests he get it at a nearby store. When he leaves, Mawu decides to disinfect Emilia's wounds, but she snatches the towel and tells him to keep his hands to himself. While she treats herself and flinches, Mawu asks if she's okay, annoying Emilia, who then tells him to act like an overlord. Surprised, Mawu asks what she means and Emilia makes him realize how much he's sucking at being an overlord. When she accuses him of getting cocky because a young girl loves him, Mawu says that not all overlords are the same. Having had enough, he fires back by calling Emilia a makeshift hero for falling down the stairs and crying for help from demons. Hearing this, Emilia chills out and asks why he's being nice to her and the entire world. While he cluelessly stares at her, Emilia tearfully asks why he unalived her dad when he could play nice guy. After ranting about how she thinks an overlord is supposed to wreak havoc all over the world and accusing him of destroying her father's fields, Emilia says she'll never forgive him. She then breaks down in tears while Mawu apologizes and explains that he didn't understand humans too well. Just then, Chiho walks in with Ashia and is shocked to find Emilia on her knees and crying. She then misunderstands what's going on and apologizes while running off. Out of the blue, the landlady shows up and presumes Mawu is in the middle of some complicated girl drama. She then introduces herself to Emilia and asks if she's Mawu's girlfriend. However, Emilia says she's not into bums like him, so Mawu tries to protest but gets shut up by Mickety. After this, Mickety announces that she has decided to renovate the house and hands Mawu a notice. After explaining that it's necessary since strange things have been happening, Mickety states that Chiho headed towards the station in tears and tells Mawu he'll have to get her out of the mess he dragged her into. While they all wonder what she means, Mickety explains that Chiho took the brunt of a sonar and formed an idea link, surprising them all. Just then, she suggested they hurry up before it's too late to do anything. Meanwhile, Chiho walks along a street crying while she realizes she's in love with Mawu. Just then, she runs into Lucifer, who then says she's worth devouring and adds that he'll feed off her despair over Mawu. At that moment, some dude tries to get Lucifer out of the way, but gets knocked off by his wings. So, Lucifer says he's about to surpass the Overlord and wreak havoc in the city. Just then, Mawu and the others arrive on the scene and are surprised to find Lucifer. Emilia then wonders how Lucifer is alive since she snuffed him out during the battle at Inteila. But Lucifer reveals that he's alive because of Ulba, one of the high priests of the church. So, Ulba opens his hood and says there's no point hiding, shocking Emilia, who then asks Ulba why he's on Lucifer's side. In response, Lucifer reveals their plan to eliminate the hero and seize the power for themselves. Hearing this, Mawu guesses that Ulba promised to reinstate Lucifer in his place. Surprised, Ulba asks how he knows, but Mawu shuts him up and adds that amateur movies have better scripts than theirs. Suddenly, Ashia gets blasted through by Lucifer, who then says it's the end for them all. Suddenly, he levitates and fires more shots at Mawu and the others. However, Mawu blocks the attacks while Lucifer enjoys the thrill of terrifying the bystanders. Ulba then calls Lucifer to order, but he says it's cool, since the Overlord and hero can't put up a fight. On the run, Emilia asks if they're going to run like cowards, but Mawu shuts her up and says they have to save Ashia first. After this, Emilia asks Mawu how Lucifer is using his magic on Earth, so Mawu explains that he must be feeding off of humans' negative emotions by causing the recent robberies. Suddenly, Lucifer stands in their way and asks why he didn't gain more strength to return to Inteila when the subway collapsed, but Mawu says he's having fun on Earth. Just then, Lucifer points out that the Overlord must have swapped his balls for a rose and summons Chiho, while threatening to milk her of all the despair he can get. Suddenly, Lucifer attacks Mawu and Emilia, but they flee the scene. However, Mawu gets hit by one of Lucifer's blasts, so he complains about the weakness of human bodies. Shortly after, they run into Olba, who then shoots Mawu down with a pistol. Surprised, Emilia asks Olba why he's using human weapons, and he reveals that he's saving his magic for controlling the gate when they return home. While they talk, Lucifer catches up and asks if Mawu is really the Overlord who once tried to take over in Ta'ila. However, when Olba suggests he take them out at once, Mawu grabs Emilia and teleports to a nearby station. Emilia then asks if he did that because he needed an ambulance, but Lucifer shows up again while many people watch in amazement, and puts a hole in Mawu. Excited to have taken out the Overlord, Lucifer says he doesn't need Chiho anymore and drops her from the sky. Immediately, Emilia rushes to catch her, while Lucifer launches a city-wide attack that destroys a bridge. When the bridge almost crushes the people and Emilia, Lucifer is shocked since he doesn't get his shot of despair. The rubble then clears, and everyone realizes the bridge particles are floating mid-air, thanks to Mawu, who had taken his demon form. At that moment, Chiho awakens and spots Mawu, while Emilia figures that Mawu brought the fight to a crowded area to absorb enough magic from people. Suddenly, Mawu tells Emilia to quit spacing out and find a way to take out Lucifer since he can't hold the bridge for much longer. However, Emilia refuses by saying she'd never help an Overlord. While Mawu freaks out, Emilia casts a spell to keep Chiho safe and summons her hero gear. Suddenly, Mawu puts the people to sleep and sets up a magical barrier to prevent the fight from destroying the earth. Afterwards, the fight begins, and after a while of clashing swords, Lucifer sends Emilia flying with a kick. When he laughs and asks Emilia how she plans to replenish her sacred powers, Ashia appears behind him, holding Emilia. Ashia then announces that he's sworn allegiance to the Overlord, and that makes Lucifer an enemy. Surprised, Emilia asks Ashia how he's alive, and he explains that he was on the verge of death, but Mawu gave him enough magic to recover. While they talk, Olba tries to shoot Ashia, but Emilia disarms him. So Lucifer gets annoyed and asks Olba to prove he's not a useless waste of space, but Olba says he has no means of replenishing his powers. When he adds that they might not be able to return, Lucifer reminds him that they won't be able to return if they lose, so Olba charges up and begins to attack. Meanwhile, Chiho wonders if she's in a sci-fi movie, and Mawu figures he can't possibly make her understand what's going on. So he carefully sets down the bridge while the others try to roast each other. Just when Olba starts feeling like Nikola Tesla, Ashia throws cars and knocks him into a wall. Simultaneously, Mawu commends himself for doing a good job and says he'd better deal with the others fast or he'll be late for work. So he levitates and wonders how he should pay the idiots back for making an Overlord feel like a minor character. Suddenly, Mawu gets in Lucifer's face and gives him a chilling stare. After this, Mawu asks Emilia what he should do with Lucifer, and in response, she suggests he punish the vermin for messing up the city. So, Mawu casts a series of spells that blow the guts out of Lucifer and restores him to his human form. Afterwards, Chiho asks who they are, and Mawu explains that he's an Overlord from another world, while Emilia says she's a mix of human and angel. Amused, Chiho says she has always thought angels and demons are fictional beings. Some moments later, Emilia asks Mawu if he's returning to Ta'ila since his powers are back, but Mawu says he's got lots of shifts to work that month, surprising Ashia, who then asks if Mawu is more interested in conquering Ta'ila or flipping burgers. Meanwhile, Emilia faces Lucifer and asks if he's the one who called her at work, and Lucifer admits to this. Just then, a portal opens and Emiradad steps out alongside Albert. Looking around, Albert wonders why time stopped. But Emirata says it's the effect of a magical barrier. Moments later, they spot Emilia, and when they join her, they are surprised to see Mawu and Ashia. Moments later, Emilia and her friends head to Mawu's apartment, and on their way, Emirata reveals that Olba and the entire church were in on the plan to take her out. Meanwhile, Lucifer wonders if the Overlord has gone crazy since he stays behind to fix the damaged bridge. Later that day, when Albert and Emirata prepare to leave, Albert points out that the church might get antsy if they don't return soon, and also suggests Emilia return soon too. At Ronald's, Chiho asks Mawu if he's returning to Ta'ila soon, so Mawu says he's not and offers to wipe her unpleasant memories if she wants, but she gets mad at him. Some days later, Mawu plays evil overlord while feasting on some roasted meat to celebrate his promotion with Ashia. After Ashia tells him he's scaring the other customers, so Mawu apologizes and suggests they get Lucifer some dinner. However, Ashia votes against that, since the little wench keeps blowing their money on Black Friday deals. Meanwhile, on Ente Isla, an interrogator for the church reports to the lords of the church that Emilia, the overlord, and Olba are alive and well in another world. When she adds that the news about Emilia's survival and Olba's defection is about to be leaked, the other priests freak out and ask her for suggestions on how to fix it. Back on Earth, Mao and Ashia return from their celebration and are greeted by a starving Lucifer. While Ashia lectures Lucifer on his manners, Mao hands him a bowl. Unsatisfied, Lucifer complains, saying it's not good enough. But Ashia makes him realize the PC and internet connection they got him weren't free. Hearing this, Lucifer insists he can't eat a computer, so Ashia tells him to put it to good use by digging up info about the magic that exists in the world. To impress Lucifer hacks into Emilia's computer at work and places a call through to her. When Emilia realizes who it was, she gets pissed. Later, at McDonald's, Chiho commends Mao for becoming a shift manager in less than a year. However, when she states that Mao will get to rule over a small number of humans for some time, Emilia shows up at the door and says she won't allow that. She then walks up to the counter and says she needs to talk to Mao, but he says he's working. Pissed, Emilia states that he started it first when he prank called her at work. Meanwhile, back home, Lucifer runs through his PC, looking for games to play while Ashia arrives and checks the mailbox, where he finds mail from Mickety. Somewhere else, Emilia asks Mou why he prank called her at work, but he blames Lucifer. So Emilia asks why he's hosting the little vermin, and Mao explains that since Olba got picked up by the cops, Lucifer shouldn't be left out and about. Hearing this, Emilia complains about his apartment getting crowded, but in response, Mou says he can't return to Ente Isla even if he wanted to. Unconcerned, Emilia brags about her ability to leave at will, so Mao asks why she's still on Earth, and Emilia says it's her duty as a hero to keep the demons in check. On getting home, Mao finds Lucifer on the floor and hurriedly pulls him up. Just then, he finds the mail on the floor, and Ashia opens the restroom door to warn Mao against checking the letter. Afterwards, Ashia explains that the mail contains pictures of Mickety in swimsuits, making Mao wonder why two demons would be shaken by something like that. So Lucifer asks him to take a look himself, but when Mao glances at a part of the picture, he diverts the discussion and asks if Lucifer has gotten any info related to magic. Lucifer then puts on his PC and explains that he found out that magical hotspots can be found nearby. After this, he shows Mao a page about a forbidden classroom where strange things happen and says a demon is likely involved. Afterward, Mao and Ashia scout the school, and while they think about how to get in, they spot Chiho waving from a classroom window. Later at work, Mao asks Chiho about the forbidden classroom, and she fills him in on every rumor about the school mysteries. When Mao says that the weird happening might be linked to Enter Isla and he'd like to investigate it, Chiho volunteers to help. By nightfall, they sneak into the old school building, and when Mao asks about the forbidden classroom, Chiho explains that a student once disappeared in the class, and since then, it's never been used. After this, Lucifer calls to ask if they've arrived at the forbidden classroom. In response, Mao says they haven't and asks what he wants. In response, Lucifer explains that someone once opened up a gate in the classroom, and this makes it easier for subsequent gate openings. After Lucifer adds that Mao could replenish his powers in the classroom if he gets there on time, he tells them to give him a call when they arrive there. Suddenly, they get startled by some noise down the hall and prepare for a fight since they think it must be a monster. However, Ashia points out that they don't have enough magic and suggests they use Mickety's mail against the monster. Emilia shows up. Just then, Emilia shows up and reminds them they'd look good in orange jumpsuits if caught with a young girl in the dark. After they explain the situation to Emilia, Chiho hands her a pair of slippers to change into. So, Emilia takes off her footwear and explains that she ended up at the school after tailing them. Just then, she looks up and finds out that she's been explaining to statues. Meanwhile, while Mao and the others hurriedly walk away, Chiho asks if leaving Emilia is a good idea, but Mao explains that things go south whenever she's involved. Suddenly, Emilia finds them, so they run and hide in a lab. But Emilia soon enters the lab and slashes through a human model, thinking it's Mao. After this, Mao and the others step out of hiding and make Emilia realize she's just destroyed the school's property and will have to replace it. However, when Chiho says no one would find out if they all keep their mouths shut, Emilia blames them for sneaking in and suggests Mao fix the model with his power. Later, on their way to the forbidden classroom, Mao asks Emilia to put away her sword, but he refuses, saying he's not her boss. Shortly after, they arrive at the forbidden classroom and find out it's unlocked, so Mao opens the door, and when they enter, they realize someone has been living there. Just when Mao wonders if they're in the right class, they look around and find a game console. Suddenly, Moyu gets a call from Lucifer, who then asks if he has found the console. When Mao confirms this, Lucifer tells him to bring it with him. Just then, it dawns on Mao that they've been tricked, so he asks Lucifer if he and Olba landed in the class when they arrived on Earth. In response, Lucifer says they did, so Mao and the others leave the school disappointed. The next day, when Mao returns from work, he heads toward the stairs, and suddenly, a girl in a traditional outfit stumbles down the stairs and falls into his arms. The next morning, at Mao's apartment, the doorbell rings, so the boys wonder who it could be. When Mao gets to the door, he finds the girl from the previous night, and she introduces herself as Suzuno. After apologizing for tumbling down the stairs, she presents a pack of noodles to express her gratitude. However, Mao isn't prepared for how heavy it is, so Ashia introduces himself. In response, Suzuno explains that the landlord said in a letter that she can rely on them if she needs any help. Just when she pulls out the mail to show them a photograph, Ashia stops her and saves the day. After this, Suzuno peeks in and spots Lucifer, so he introduces himself, while Mao adds that he's a total bum, annoying Lucifer. Meanwhile, at Emilia's apartment, she gets a package from Imarata, so while they talk on a call, Imarata explains that the box contains bottles of holy vitamins with sacred powers made just for her use on Earth. So, Emilia checks it out, while Imarata explains how drinking it would replenish her sacred powers. Later that day, Emilia plays CIA agent, but soon realizes why stakeouts are done at night. Just then, she spots Suzuno giving Lucifer a lecture on house management, so she wonders if she's just another demon she has to worry about. After this, Emilia sneaks into the building and spies on the duo with her mirror. Oblivious to this, Suzuno continues her lecture, while Ashia lies down and sickly encourages Suzuno to talk more sense into Lucifer. Suddenly, Suzuno decides to get some ingredients from her apartment, so Emilia dashes for the door, but not before Suzuno spots her. She then falls over the stairs but somehow lands in Mao's arms. When he asks what kind of hero falls down every stairs she sees, Emilia makes his nose squirt and they both fall to the ground. Drawn by the noise, Suzuno and Lucifer step out and ask what they're up to. Shortly after, Suzuno says she's at fault for opening the door, but Emilia blames herself for losing her footing. Moments later, Lucifer walks in with Emilia's things, which he picked up the stairs, and pulls out a bottle of her sacred powers. When Emilia quickly snatches the bottle from him, Lucifer warns her that she'll end up ill like Ashia if she keeps drinking stuff like that. Facing Emilia, Suzuno introduces herself and announces that she moved in next door. After this, she adds that she's from an old-fashioned family somewhere far away and says she could use a tutorial on the ways of the city. However, Emilia gets busy checking out her chest cannons, but she snaps out of it and reciprocates the gesture. Afterward, Mao announces that he's getting promoted to being a shift supervisor at McDonald's and explains how much better the pay is. But when he realizes that Emilia isn't impressed with his achievement, he announces that he won't stop reaching for the top. Emilia, on the other hand, calls him an idiot. So Suzuno asks Emilia if Mao has been taking dips in her honeypot since they seem pretty unreserved with each other. When Lucifer says it seems that way, Emilia angrily debunks this by saying it would make her day if Mao drops dead. At that moment, Emilia thinks Suzuno is smitten by the Overlord too, so she whispers in Suzuno's ear to ask if she's going after Mao too. Suzuno then drags her out of the room and says the others could have heard her say that. After this, Suzuno asks Emilia how she could tell, but Emilia decides to keep the drama with Chiho secret and says she just had a hunch. After realizing Suzuno is neither an assassin nor a demon, Emilia warns her against getting close to Mao since that will only bring her sorrow. In response, Suzuno says she's been through a few battles in the past and adds that she'll be careful regardless. Some moments later, Emilia hands Suzuno her contact and informs her to reach out if any of the boys do anything crazy. Hearing this, Mao asks Emilia what she thinks of them, and she says they're bloodthirsty monsters worse than cockroaches. After threatening the boys to keep their hands off Suzuno, Emilia takes her leave, but trips on the stairs again. Later that day, while Mao heads out to work, Suzuno shows up with a packed lunch and hands it to Mao. Somewhere else, on a call with Imarata, Emilia reveals she's been drinking the holy vitamins but hasn't had the chance to see their effects. So Imarata asks how it's going with Mao, and when Emilia explains that they barely have time to get in each other's business since they've got jobs, Imarata points out that she sounds like a neglected housewife. Hearing this, Emilia freaks out while stating that Mao will be her enemy till the end of time. Imarata then reveals that things are quiet on Isla, although the church is looking into Olba's disappearance and might have people looking for Emilia already. After this, Imarata warns Emilia to be careful, and they end the call. At McDonald's, Kisaki informs Mao that she'll be gone for a while and he'll be in charge of making decisions on her behalf. Some moments later, while Mao takes a lunch break, he unwraps Suzuno's lunch pack, making Chiho curious, so she asks if Ashia bought that for him. But Mao explains that a lady next door lent it to him. Suddenly, Chiho grabs Mao by the collar and throws a tantrum. Later that day, Emilia gets her dinner in preparation for another stakeout, and just when she heads out of the store, a masked idiot runs into the glass door and collapses. Emilia then spots his eyes sparkle, so when the store attendant runs up to play hero, Emilia knocks him off and summons her sacred sword. She then sends the attacker flying and instructs the attendant to call the cops. On stepping out, Emilia gets shot with a beam, which she blocks with her sword. So she spots the culprit lurking in the dark like the Grim Reaper and says he's got some nerve to attack her in public. Suddenly, she draws her sword and attacks the culprit, but she soon gets blasted again by the beam from his eyes. But this time, her sword shrinks, surprising Emilia. So while the culprit blasts her with more beams, he gets hit with some paintballs by the store attendant. Suddenly, the attacker runs off while Emilia makes her sword vanish and apologizes to the attendant for pushing him off. After this, the cops arrive on the scene, and shortly after, Emilia thinks about how well the holy vitamins worked. However, when she realizes she was no match for the purple beams from the attacker, a cop walks in with her belongings. She then gets a call from Chicho, who then notifies her that Mao brought a lunch packed with love to work. The next day, Chiho and Emilia stand outside Mao's house, and when they arrive at the door, they ring the doorbell. But to their surprise, Suzuno opens the door and informs Mao that he's got visitors. Some moments later, while Suzuno flexes her culinary skills, Chiho realizes she's filling in for Ashia while he has heat stroke and commends Suzuno's cooking. Afterward, when they sit to eat, Lucifer peeks out of his little world and figures there's no space left for him. Annoyed, he freaks out and asks why he's being treated worse than the enemy. While they eat, Suzuno explains that she's just trying to get the boys to help her finish her food reserves. When she adds that she had gotten too much food to minimize her expenses till she gets a job, Emilia asks about her job preference. In response, Suzuno says she's cool with any job that can cover her living expenses. Just then, Mao suggests she join him and Chiho at McDonald's, surprising everyone. When Mao adds that Chiho can help her get through her training without any tension, Lucifer realizes how dumb the Overlord is when it comes to girl mechanics. Just then, Emilia chips in that she doesn't have to make a hasty decision and suggests she think about it. A few moments later, when Ashia suggests Emilia help Suzuno out with shopping for clothes, Suzuno reveals she only has a Japanese-style outfit, surprising everyone. So Chiho suggests that Emilia take her to some boutiques after work. Afterwards, Chiho goes for a change of clothes, and when she shows up, Emilia figures she wasn't joking when she said she had only traditional wear. After Chiho says her goodbyes, Mao walks her home, and on the way, Mao asks if her parents are cool with her visiting a guy. Chiho then says her parents didn't think much of it. She then asks what Mao plans to do about food since Suzuno went out with Emilia. When Mao says he has no plans, Chiho asks if she could bring some along for him, and Mao takes up the offer. While Chiho gets excited, Mao asks why she isn't bothered about hanging around demons. In response, Chiho says she knows a little about what they've done, but it doesn't matter since she fell in love. Hearing this, Mao freaks out, but Chiho reveals how she feels about him, so Mao comments that it's why humans are so terrifying. Out of the blue, Suzuno shows up and chips in that Mao is lucky to be loved. Shocked, Chiho asks Suzuno how long she's been standing there and goes crazy when she realizes her secret feelings are not so secret anymore. Feeling embarrassed, Chiho snatches Mao's bicycle and zooms off. Shortly after, Suzuno meets up with Emilia at the train station and reveals that she's never been on a train before. Emilia asks how she got to the city. In response, Suzuno says she simply used the gate, surprising Emilia, who then asks if she's from Isla. When Suzuno says she thought Emilia knew that already, they both freak out, and Emilia says she never mentioned it. Just then, Suzuno refers to their discussion outside Mao's apartment and reminds Emilia that she once asked if she was after the Overlord. Hearing this, Emilia exclaims while Suzuno asks why she asked such a question if she hadn't realized who she was. When Emilia insists she had no idea, Suzuno points out that it's odd for some random innocent girl to show up in a new house and take care of the guys next door. So, Emilia realizes it's been a huge misunderstanding and asks Suzuno why she was curious about her relationship with Maoyu. But Suzuno reveals that she asked because she got some info that she was teaming up with him. Hearing this, Emilia reveals that they only fought a common enemy together and suddenly realizes that the misunderstanding must be why she got attacked by the Grim Reaper. While Suzuno wonders what she's talking about, Emilia narrates how she got attacked outside the store and thinks Suzuno was the attacker. However, since she couldn't find traces of paint on Suzuno, Emilia gets confused. Just then, Suzuno says she never attacked anyone and introduces herself as Christia Bell, the chief interrogator for the church. Emilia then hands her a train ticket and suggests they continue the discussion at their destination. Afterwards, while they moved around the city, Suzuno embarrassed her entire bloodline in public. So, when they settle down, Emilia asks how she learned about the country. So Suzuno reveals that she watched some old dramas and documentaries. While they prepare their drinks, Emilia asks why she moved in next door to the Overlord. So Suzuno explains that she discovered where Maowu was living while trailing Olba, so she moved in to keep an eye on him. Hearing this, Emilia asks Suzuno what she wants from her, and she reveals that she can tell that the reports stating that Emilia has joined the Overlord are false. She then expresses her interest in becoming Emilia's ally, and also suggests they join forces to end the Overlord. However, when Suzuno suggests they return to Isla to talk the church out of trying to cover up Olba's defection, Emilia says she's uninterested, since the church tried to bury countless people just to get her and Maowu. After listing the many sins of Olba and the church, Emilia says she can't trust someone who works for them. In addition, she warns Suzuno against playing any tricks on the demons, since they're not as soft as they look. Before leaving, Emilia hands Suzuno some magazines to help her learn the ways of her new world. Meanwhile, at McDonald's, Maowu worries they've lost their customers to Sentaki, a new spot across the street. Just then, Kasaki announces she's leaving for the headquarters soon and puts Maowu in charge. While Maowu worries his first day on the job sucks, some dude walks in and asks to speak to the manager. When Maowu suggests that the guy speak to him since the manager is away, Mitsuki says he has heard a lot about Maowu and hands over his card to Maowu. On checking it, Maowu realizes he's the manager of Sentaki and dryly suggests they do their best. However, Mitsuki slides over to Chiho and tries some wacky lines on her. A few moments later, while Chiho sulks about this, Maowu says he should have stopped the wannabe playboy. In response, Chiho expressed her anger at Mitsuki and decided they can't lose to a runt like him. Just then, Maowu reveals that he'll soon have some intel to use against Sentaki since he already planted a spy. Meanwhile, after a shopping spree, Suzuno bumps into Emilia and Rika. Surprised, Emilia realizes Suzuno got more Japanese wear and asks if she has that much money. Suzuno then explains that she pawned off some stuff to get the outfits. Some moments later, Suzuno reveals she's going to Maowu's workplace and invites Emilia to go with her, while Rika points out that the name sounds familiar. Just then, Suzuno adds that she knows Emilia advised her to stay away from him, but it's too late to back out. Hearing this, Rika thinks Emilia got in a fight over a man and insists she'll tag along to help resolve the issue. When they arrive at McDonald's, Emilia wonders why it's unusually crowded, and Suzuno points out that a festival is starting that day. So, Rika spots McDonald's and points out that they don't seem to have any customers. After thinking about how things could go south if they choose to go in to settle a lover's quarrel, Rika suggests they head to Sentaki's to hold a strategy meeting first. Afterwards, the ladies step up to the counter and place their orders. So Rika paid for the orders, but gets creeped out by Mitsuki's touch. After getting the order, Rika comments on his wacky perfume taste and finds a seat. She then asks Suzuno to spill, so Suzuno explains that Maowu is her good neighbor, surprising Emilia, who then recalls her suggesting they join forces to end Maowu. However, when Rika asks Emilia what she thinks about Maowu, she says he's someone she'd like to put in the ground forever. In addition, Emilia states that she's trying to keep Suzuno away from Maowu for a different reason. but Rika responds by saying they're not being honest with themselves. Annoyed, Emilia asks Rika why she's so bent on shipping her with Mau. To make matters worse, Emilia goes on saying everything despicable about him. But she suddenly gets interrupted by Ashia, who had been listening and was clearly pissed. Meanwhile, Mau wonders why Ashia is taking too long and flashes back to the moment he informed Ashia about the mission. Ashia had protested against going to fill the enemy's pockets with his money, but Mau convinces him that it's a necessary cost to learn about the strengths and weaknesses of the enemy. After this, Mau looks around and realizes the entire staff has lost their vigor since McDonald's is a graveyard compared to Kentucky. While Mau thinks of what to do, Chiho suggests they stand outside to attract customers. Hearing this, Mau decides to wait for Ashia's feedback to figure out how they can attract the customers. While he racks his brains, one of the staff asks if he's alright and adds that he doesn't have to do everything by himself. So, Mau gets himself together and suggests they bide their time by washing the windows. Meanwhile, over at Kentucky's, Emilia asks Ashia why he was hiding, and Ashia reveals that he was trying to avoid trouble until she began to slander his master. Afterward, Emilia figures out why he's at Kentucky's and offers to buy Ashia whatever he wants. Immediately, Ashia takes a seat and explains that his priority is keeping their finances and decides to order desserts and salads. Confused, Rika asks Emilia if Ashia is a friend, but they quickly debunk this. Ashia then introduces himself as Suzuno's neighbor, while Rika reciprocates the gesture. After this, she asks if he lives with Mau, and when Ashia confirms this, Rika says she'd like to get to know Mau better. So, Ashia tells a story where he and Mau run a construction company, and Emilia is their rival's employee. He then continues by saying their operations got large in scale, and so they fought over contracts. After a while, they lost a contract and went bankrupt, so they drifted from place to place till one day when they bumped into Emilia again. Ashia then ends his fake story by saying Emilia stops by to check on them to see how they're doing. In addition to this, Ashia states that Mau hasn't given up on being a businessman, so he works his pants off at McDonald's to learn about business from the ground up. Afterwards, he insinuates that Emilia is bent on keeping Suzuno away from them since Mau still sees her as an enemy. Impressed by Ashia's story, Rika commends Ashia for being supportive, and he responds by saying no one has ever encouraged him like that. While they stare at each other, Rika suddenly blushes while Emilia asks if something's gotten into her. Afterward, Rika says she'd like to meet Mau for herself, so they head out and leave Emilia to get Ashia's order as promised. Some moments later, Ashia reports to Mau that there's nothing special about the service at Kentucky and adds that the passers-by are attracted by the new place. After this, Ashia places an order for dinner and wishes him the best of luck with the ladies before taking his leave. Mau then walks up to the ladies and asks them to place an order, but Emilia tells Mau to get her some iced coffee. Mau then tells her to get it herself. While they go back and forth, Rika points out that Mau isn't as charismatic as she expected him to be and adds that the place is a ghost town under his supervision. Annoyed, Mau raises his voice at Rika, so she threatens to get him for his terrible way of treating customers. Mau then informs her that customers need to play by the restaurant's rules and asks who she is. In response, Rika introduces herself and reveals that she heard about him from Ashia and the ladies. Curious, Mau asks Rika what they say about him, but she gives him a vague response. Just when Chiho arrives, Mau complains that it's bad enough that they don't have customers and adds that Emilia's arrival just made things worse. Ignoring this, Chiho serves Emilia's order and introduces herself to Rika. Amused by this, Rika hugs Chiho and points out that she's cute. When she finally lets go, Rika takes a seat and announces that she'd like to see Mau work since he can't be as dim as he looks. Annoyed, Mau orders his staff to advertise their hamburgers with flyers, so they get to work, but they get no customers. After this, Mau suggests they show off their packs to attract customers, but this fails too, so the ladies watch in disappointment. Shortly after, Mau has a man deliver bamboo trees to the front of the restaurant, so they take out some decoration items and craft more from the remaining flyers. Just then, Emily asks Chiho what's going on, and she explains that Mau came up with an idea to let people write their wishes on strips of paper and decorate the trees themselves. In addition to this, Chiho explains that Mau met the bamboo man while doing community service. Surprised, Emilia wondered why an overlord would do community service. Just then, the mood around McDonald's changed, impressing Rika, so more customers showed up. The next day, when Chiho comments about the previous day, Mao says that Sentaki might steal their customers again if they take things easy. While he flashes back to Kasaki's threat, she taps him and tells him to go to Fushima Park the next day. Shocked, Mao screams and says he met the sales target the previous day. Kasaki then says that the manager over there asked her to lend them one of her talented employees. While he gets relieved to know he isn't going to Greenland, Kasaki reveals that he'll be well compensated for the trip. Hearing this, Chiho volunteers to go with him, but Kasaki says that Mao alone is enough. Later during dinner, Mao informs Ashia about his trip and comments that he's eating too much despite just recovering from an illness. In response, Ashia says the noodles will expire soon and suggests they finish them before the next day. Just then, Lucifer finds out on his PC that a new haunted house and reptile fair will be opened at the park. He then states that loads of people will go there and adds that they could farm some magic from the people's fear. Hearing this, Ashia volunteers to go to the park with Mao. Meanwhile, Suzuno overhears the conversation from her apartment. At Amelia's apartment, she gets a call from Chiho, who then invites her to hang out at Fushima Park the next day. When Amelia responds by saying she's free to hang out, Chiho gets excited and checks out her swimsuit in anticipation. After this, Amelia gets a call from Suzuno and is informed that Mao is planning on harvesting magic at the park. Surprise, Amelia says she heard from Chiho that he's going there to help a restaurant. When she asks how Mao plans to harvest magic from a recreational facility, Suzuno says she's naive and says she'd like to go with them to see it for herself. The next day, at the park, Mao introduces himself to the branch manager, who then responds by saying she shared her a lot about him. While she encourages her staff to work hard, the ladies meet up outside, and Suzuno confesses that it's her first time at an amusement park. Afterwards, Amelia and Chiho meet in the changing rooms where wearing beachwear. When she sees Chiho's massive honkers, Amelia wishes she had selected better jeans. Just then, Suzuno surprises her friends with her Stone Age drip. Meanwhile, Mao works his pants off just to get a compliment from the branch manager. When he gets back to taking orders, he's surprised to see Chiho, so while he processes her order, Chiho reveals that she came to hang out. She then cheers him on and wiggles her milky peaks at him. When she asks what he thinks, Mao misses the cue and says that the job is more hectic at the park since there are loads of customers. Disappointed, Chiho says she expected too much from a tactless twig like him. Just then, Emily and Suzuno show up, so Mao asks what they are doing at the park. In response, Amelia says she's free to do whatever she wants on her days off, while Suzuno says she's learning the ways of society. Meanwhile, back at Mao's house, Ashia crawls out of the restroom, while Lucifer says he must have had too many noodles. Not long after this, Ashia rushes back into the restroom and blames himself for ruining his plans to help Mao with the magic harvest. At the park, the ladies decide to check out the haunted house, so they go in. Not long after this, Chiho gets scared to bits by the effects, so she dashes off. While Amelia and Suzuno look around for Chiho, they find a girl crying and approach her. Just then, they discover it's a creepy effect of the haunted house, so they scream their lungs out. After they recover from the shock, the ladies decide to check out the reptiles. Amelia then tells Chiho to back out if she's not up for it, but she insists she'll go. Just then, Suzuno asks Amelia if she's scared, but she denies it and says she's just not good with reptiles. After this, while they flash back to terrifying experiences they've had with reptiles, Suzuno asks if there'll be edible reptiles too, surprising the other girls. Suzuno then reveals that she was once served a reptile cuisine, but Amelia drags her aside and asks why she's telling Chiho about Isla. Shortly after, the girls check out different reptiles, but when a chameleon tries to get a taste of Amelia, she bumps into a guard who then mistakenly drops his key and heads off. Simultaneously, when Mao makes a delivery to a circus, a monkey escapes and finds the dropped key. Later, Amelia and the other ladies find the monkey and wonder if it's lost. Just then, the monkey hops in Chiho and enjoys the texture of her pillows. City boy! When Mao prepares to leave the circus, the men call out to the monkey, which was named after Mao. Not long after this, while the ladies wonder what to do with the monkey, someone calls out to it nearby, so the monkey hops off and gets picked up by one of the circus men. Coincidentally, Mao arrives on the scene, so the ladies make fun of him while he freaks out. Somewhere else, the unlocked door to the crocodile's cage opens, so some crocodiles crept out and made their way into the pools. Suddenly, someone spots the crocodile in the water and screams, so everyone flees the pools while the crocodiles creep out after them. While the people flee, Mao approaches the crocodiles and casts a spell that hypnotizes them. Later that day, after the park branch manager commends Mao for a job well done, the ladies head home on a train and talk about how much fun they had together. However, when Chiho and Suzuno get off the train, Suzuno spots a hooded guy on the other side of the tracks, who then shows off his wings and vanishes. The next day, Lucifer asks Mao how the magic harvesting went, but Mao reveals that he ended up using up the magic. Just then, Ashia crawls out of the restroom and tells them not to worry about him. At that moment, someone announces that they've got a package, but when Lucifer tries to go get it, she slips and falls. So, Mao gets to the door and is informed that the package belongs to Lucifer. Ashia then angrily asks Lucifer what he's been up to while he was away in the restroom. But before he could finish, he rushed back to the restroom. Sometime later, while Lucifer gets busy with his PC, Mao tends to Ashia, who then complains about being useless. Mao then tells him to forget about it and announces that he's making dinner. Just then, the doorbell rings and someone announces that they've got a delivery. Surprised, Ashia asks Lucifer if he bought something again, but he says if he did, he'd have it delivered when they aren't around. After the delivery truck leaves, Mao reads a letter from Mickety, where she wrote that she found a bunch of stuff in Hawaii and suggests that Mao put them up for sale in an upcoming festival market. Meanwhile, Suzuno flashes back to her encounter with the hooded guy who rightly guessed that she's from the church and identified her by her name. After this, she also flashes back to the assassinations she carried out on Olba's orders, thinking she was making the world a better place. However, she realizes it wasn't them who saved the world but the hero. The next day at work, Rika asks Emilia if she went to the park with Mao. In response, Emilia reveals that she met him at the park, although she went with Suzuno and Chiho. Curious, Rika asks if she's interested in Mao, but Emilia says she'd rather be interested in Suzuno. Later that day, Chiho shows up at Mao's apartment and finds cartons stacked tall. When she asks what's going on, Mao explains that the landlady sent the items from Hawaii and asks him to put them up for sale. Just then, Ashia crawls out and begs Chiho to help them out since he's yet to recover. Suddenly, a couple of the packages collapse on Ashia, and Lucifer points out that the room is too cramped even if they plan to get help and announces that Emilia is on her way too, surprising Mao, who then asks how he knows. In response, Lucifer reveals that he snuck a transmitter into her bag some days ago, so Mao opens the door and finds Emilia at Suzuno's door instead. A few moments later, Emilia asks why she should help them since she only dropped by to check on Suzuno. In response, Suzuno points out that she has no reason to be checked on, so they unboxed the packages and found a variety of stuff. However, when they find food items, Lucifer spots a note which says that the food and drinks are for everyone, so Chiho leaves to get cups. Afterward, when Mao tries to uncork a bottle of wine, Emilia says he's being clumsy and tells him to be careful. Suddenly, the cork comes loose and Mao gives Suzuno a wine bath. Not long after this, Chiho arrives with 5 cups, so when Mao announces that Lucifer won't be getting any, Lucifer protests. That evening, after they sold off Mickety's gifts, Mao thanks the ladies for their help. After this, Chiho catches Suzuno spacing out and asks if she's alright. In response, Suzuno says she hasn't had the time to enjoy a festival in years, so Chiho suggests that they have tons of fun with the preparations for the festival. Just when Mao leaves work, Suzuno spots a floating feather and later meets up with the hooded guy. While they talk, the hooded guy tells her to do what she came to do before the Overlord regains his powers. When he adds that it's too late to have doubts since she's got her hands stained with blood plenty of times, Suzuno flashes back to the moment she realized that the church lords were up to no good. She then tells the hooded guy that she didn't execute people because she wanted to, but the guy insists that she get the job done. Back at Mao's house, Lucifer surfs the web while Ashia groans in pain. Annoyed by this, Lucifer tells him to go to the hospital. However, when he says he'll call the ambulance, Ashia asks how much that would cost. On their way home, Emilia and Chiho find Suzuno spaced out, and as they head home, Chiho suggests that Suzuno take up Mao's job offer at McDonald's, but Suzuno suddenly halts and points out that Mao cannot be allowed to live any longer. When Chiho asks where all that rage is coming from, Suzuno explains that Mao used magic by setting up a bamboo tree and manipulating people to pour their wishes onto it. When she adds that he activated his powers by doing that, Chiho defends Mao by saying he was only trying to get visitors. However, Suzuno chips in that there's no guarantee that Mao won't use his powers for more dangerous purposes. since Chiho won't stop trying to defend him. Suzuno says she'll have her memory wiped. Hearing this, Chiho protests and says she doesn't want to lose any of the memories she shares with them. Just then, Suzuno says that Mao is the same overlord who made people suffer on Isla, but Chiho refuses to back down and talks about every good thing Mao has ever done. At this point, Emilia interrupts and says she agrees with Suzuno, but adds that fighting for a peaceful world is not worth sacrificing just anything for. Hearing this, Suzuno asks Emilia if she has any intention to end the overlord, but when Emilia says she doesn't, Suzuno weeps and takes her leave. Afterward, while they head home, Chiho blames herself for talking back at Suzuno despite knowing nothing about Isla. Emilia then tells her not to worry about it since love isn't logical in any way. Suddenly, the Grim Reaper attacks them, but Emilia manages to get Chiho to safety. She then summons her sword and attacks, but she gets thrown back. Just then, the attacker takes off his mask and turns out to be Mitsuki. While Chiho tries to call Mao, Emilia gets blasted by Mitsuki's beam, so her sword turns into a knife. Mitsuki then explains that he can overwhelm users of sacred powers and adds that he has come to relieve her of her mission. Suddenly, he transforms into an angel and says he has come for the sacred sword. With the speed of light, Mitsuki strikes Emilia and throws her through a wall. Just then, Chiho spots Suzuno and approaches her while accusing her of betraying the hero who fought to save their world. So, Suzuno puts Chiho to sleep and asks for her forgiveness. Meanwhile, Mao checks his phone and finds a missed call from Chiho. Just then, he gets a call from Chiho's mother, who then asks if Chiho is with him, since she's not home yet. Moments later, Mao reaches out to Lucifer, who then says that Chiho isn't at the apartment. In addition to this, he reveals that he checked the employee register of Sentucky and realized Mistuki isn't on the list. Mao then asks if he's still got his transmitter on Emilia, so Lucifer checks his radar and finds Emilia's blip moving right through buildings. After asking where the blip is headed, Mao grabs a mop stick and rides out. Meanwhile, in a guarded hospital room, a cop walks out and Olba awakens from his coma. In the same building, Ashia wonders how much his running drip will cost. Just then, a nurse walks in, so Ashia asks if his health insurance will cover the bills. In response, the nurse says it will and offers to hook him up on another drip, but he refuses. Shortly after, Ashia walks out of the room and finds a cop knocked out cold. Suddenly, Olba shows up behind him and knocks him down with a punch. After Olba picks up his card and leaves, the nurse finds Ashia on the floor and gives him a lecture while Olba checks out his address on the card. On a roof somewhere in the city, Mitsuki tortures Emilia with beams from his eyes and tells her to surrender the sacred sword. However, Emilia suggests that he let Chiho go since she has nothing to do with them, but Mistuki refuses and states that she's a sample as a human from another world who really knows the Overlord and still fell for him. When Mitsuki adds that she's making an interesting research subject, Emilia calls him a freak. Annoyed by this, Mitsuki blasts Emilia with the beam while she screams. Meanwhile, Mao approaches the building but suddenly crashes into a magical barrier. Sensing this, Mitsuki suggests they give him a warm welcome and orders Suzuno to take him on. Just then, Emilia tells Suzuno that Isla won't change even if she and the Overlord die in another world. However, Mitsuki is convinced that none of that matters, so Suzuno summons her mallet and jumps down the building. While this goes on, Mao casts a spell to break through the magical barrier. Suddenly, Suzuno lands behind him and crushes his bicycle. Annoyed by this, Mao freaks out and cries about how much another bike will cost him. To his surprise, Suzuno tries to bash his skull in with her mallet, but he flees and jumps to the rooftop. He then begs Suzuno to wait a bit and takes off his clothes. When Suzuno asks what he's doing, Mao explains that she might not understand since she's jobless, so he explains that if his work clothes get damaged outside work, he'll have to pay for them. Annoyed, Suzuno tries to blow him away, but strips him of his shirt instead. So, Mao explains that he overlooked the fact that she bravely stayed next door and treated them with food, but adds that he can't overlook his staff getting hurt. In response, Suzuno asks if he knows who she was all along, and Mao explains that her friendly arrival seemed too good to be true. When he says that her meals were spiked with sacred powers, Mao adds that he had high hopes for her, but she turned out to be just the same as Olba. Pissed, Suzuno attacks Mao, but was surprised to land a successful hit. When she asks why he didn't fight back, Mao explains that he used up his magic breaking through the barrier. Since Suzuno isn't finishing him off, Mao gets up and announces that he's leaving, but Suzuno says it's useless, since he can't face an archangel in his weak state. Mao then realizes it's why Emilia got beaten, and Suzuno chips in that Mitsuki gets stronger the closer he is to the moon. So Mao continues stretching and says he's not shameless enough to abandon his employee and run. Just then, he runs off, leaving Suzuno to wonder if he's really a demon. Meanwhile, back at Mao's house, Lucifer watches his radar and wonders what Mao is getting into. He then gets interrupted by the doorbell, so he gets the door and finds Olba, who then promises to grant his wish if he joins up with him again. On the rooftop where Mitsuki holds Emilia, he decides to extract the sword from Emilia and unbuttons her shirt. Seeing this, Chiho protests and calls Mitsuki a cultured monster, but he reveals that he's not into modest women like Emilia and adds that he's into ladies like Chiho. Hearing this, the ladies call him names that drive him crazy, but when he shuts them up, Emilia says he'll regret it if he lays a hand on Chiho. Mitsuki then reminds her that there's nothing she can do about it, but Emilia says she's talking about Mao. Surprised, Mitsuki asks why a hero is relying on an overlord to save her, but Emilia reveals Chiho is an employee of Mgronad's, and since Mao is her boss, it's his job to protect his employees. While they debate on who's crazier, Mao hurries up the stairs and blames the faulty elevators for his misfortune. Eventually, he arrives at the rooftop and apologizes to Chiho for keeping her waiting. When he comments that Emilia is in one piece too, she screams at him and tells him to keep his eyes off her mini saucers. Mitsuki then expresses his surprise that Mao showed up to save the ladies, while Mao says he didn't expect a midget manager to have his abilities. Mitsuki then explains that he has to retrieve the sacred sword since it's made of one of heaven's most prized assets, but Mao says he's not concerned since he finds it unforgivable that Mitsuki tortures his colleague. Amused, Mitsuki asks Mao what he plans to do with a frail body like his and launches a series of attacks that make him bleed. While Mao realizes he's screwed without his powers, Mitsuki flies close to the moon and asks Mao what he plans to do. Somewhere else, Olba drinks up some holy vitamins and casts a spell while Suzuno wonders if she should cause chaos. However, Lucifer stops her and shows her that Olba is doing that already. Just then, Mitsuki gets stronger and holds Mao with rock particles. Meanwhile, due to the strange happening, people panic, so Ashia draws from the chaos and awakens at the hospital. At the same time, Mitsuki wonders what's going on since magic gathered around Mao. Just then, Mao sets Emilia free and tells Suzuno to take care of them. Seeing this, Mitsuki asks Suzuno if she's gone nuts for supporting the enemy, but Suzuno explains that she can no longer turn a blind eye to their false brand of justice. Somewhere else, Olba says that Mitsuki can now finish off the Overlord, but Mao asks him to hand over Emilia's bag since she'll end him if he doesn't return it. Just then, Olba realizes Lucifer has been playing him. Just then, Lucifer sends him flying and wipes him out with a devastating uppercut. Suddenly, the clouds cover up the moon, surprising Mitsuki. Mao then tells him to either run like a coward or become a punching bag. Despite this, Mitsuki insists he must accomplish his plan, so he tries to blast Mao with his beam, but Mao evades the attack. However, when Mao retaliates, Mitsuki realizes what he's dealing with and tries to seize Chiho as a bargaining chip. To his dismay, Chiho resets him with an uppercut and kicks him into a building. Mao then transforms into his usual form. After this, he picks Emilia up and tells her he can see her puny orbs.
Yeah, boy.
So Emilia buttons up. Meanwhile, Mitsuki threatens to have Mao's head, but Mao shows up and explains that, unlike people who use sacred powers, Mitsuki has nothing on him. Just then, Mao summons his unholy sword and tells Mitsuki to beg for forgiveness. After this, Mao sends the deviant angel back to where he came from. Some moments later, Mao whines about having to clean the mess with his powers, but Emilia says it's his fault for taking too long. Just then, Ashia arrives and apologizes for showing up late. Sometime later, in a dream, Chiho meets with Mao on a roof where he tells her he has to return to Inteila. When she says she'll go with him, Mao refuses and points out that they're from different worlds. Hearing this, Chiho weeps while Mao kisses her and leaves through a gate. After she wakes, she tells Mao about it at work, but omits the part where he kisses her, so Mao says that he doesn't have the kind of power required for that yet, since he did a lot of repairs the previous day, and tosses Mitsuki through a gate. Just then, Kasatsuki shows up and asks Mao why he ran off with a mop and didn't return. While Mao stutters, Chiho says it's a long story. However, Kasaki asks why she's answering for him, and Suzuno walks in and reveals that Mawu saved them. Back at the apartment, Lucifer watches the radar and announces that Suzuno has gone to Mawu's workplace. Hearing this, Ashia tells him to quit spying on people, but then asks Lucifer how much the transmitters cost. Lucifer then tells Ashia to get his soapy hands off him. At McDonald's, Suzuno introduces herself to Kasaki and narrates how they got chased by a cultured moron and were saved by Mawu. Just then, one of the staff barges in and announces that they have found someone in the freezer. Moments later, Mawu and the others stare at Mitsuki chilling on the ground and figure the bamboo must have responded to his magic and opened a gate inside the store. After this, Mitsuki awakens and spills some gibberish about meeting a beauty goddess in another world. While he throws a tantrum, Kasaki wonders if he's right in the head, so Mawu reveals that he's the manager at Sentaki. Just then, Mitsuki goes crazy with his lines, but Kasaki suggests calling the ambulance. Suddenly, Mitsuki tries to hug Kasaki, but she evades him and stomps his head. That same day, Emilia has a weird dream about Mawu returning to his conquest hobby and wakes up. Shortly after, while she changes at work, Rika comments that she seems to be in high spirits and suggests they go get dinner together. However, when Emilia turns her down, Rika asks if she's going to check on Mawu again, but Emilia says she's not sure it's okay to call it that. Just then, Rika points out that it's high time they both stopped with the denial, but Emilia says it's a lot more complicated than that. Later, that evening, Emilia decides never to forgive Mawu for destroying her village and snuffing out her father. However, she shows up at his door, and when she enters, she finds Suzuno feeding him. Seeing this, Emilia asks what she's doing, and when Chiho sees them too, she freaks out. Suzuno then explains that she tried some French cuisine. Annoyed, Chiho points out that she's making dinner already and asks Mawu while Emilia stares in surprise. After throwing a tantrum, Chiho asks Mawu whose cooking he'd choose between hers and Suzuno's. Mao then says it'd save them a lot of money if they could take turns every day. While Emilia gets disappointed at how far the Overlord has fallen, Ashia walks in, surprising Mawu, who then asks where he has been. Just then, Ashia says he'd like to take a vacation. Afterwards, on a call, Emirata says she doesn't think Ashia is back to Inteila. But when Emilia insists that he said he's going on a vacation, Emirata says he probably got tired of living in the cramped apartment. Just then, Emilia flashes back to the moment Ashia said he can't go into details in the presence of the ladies, so Mawu asks them to leave. Sometime later, when Emilia tells Chiho that she couldn't find out anything from Emirata, it suddenly begins to rain, and when they find a dry spot, Chiho says that Mawu might be returning to Inteila soon, just like in her dream. Emilia then asks what she means and says that she had an ominous dream too. Later, while Emilia spies on Mawu's house, she spots a truck delivering a lot of stuff to the house. She then wonders if they were importing something like holy vitamins from hell. Afterwards, Emilia calls Emirata to find out if anything weird is happening on Inteila, but she says she gained a few pounds, annoying Emilia. Meanwhile, Kasaki gets a bouquet from Mitsuki, and while she wonders what to do with it, Mawu walks in and requests an adjustment in his work schedule. Kasaki then agrees to grant his request, but Chiho eavesdrops. Shortly after, when Mawu prepares to leave, Chiho asks if he's really returning to Inteila, but Mawu says he doesn't have the power to return yet. Hearing this, Chiho then asks what was up, but Mawu says he can't say. Sometime later, Emilia and Chiho get into their spy outfits and tail Mawu to a construction site. While they wonder if he's trying to build a castle overlord, they spot Mawu working, and he spots them too. A few moments later, Mawu explains to them that they needed some money to pay for 2 transmitters that Lucifer bought and snuck into Emilia's bag and Suzuno's footwear. Suddenly, Emilia checks her bag, and when she finds the transmitter, she almost fries it with her sacred powers, but Mawu reminds her she's in public, so she crushes it with her boots. Mawu then says they'll be charged for it in 2 weeks, and his payday is still weeks away. After this, Mawu adds that Ashia came up with the idea of taking a temporary job that pays daily wages. Emilia then asks why they decided to keep it from Chiho, and Mawu explains that she'd feel responsible for it since the transmitters helped in saving her life. After this, Mawu apologizes, but Chiho says it's fine as long as he's not returning to Inteila. Emilia then asks what the truck was delivering at the house, but Mawu says he has no idea what she means. Some moments later, while Mawu questions him, Lucifer trembles and says he found the packages in the house. Mawu then takes him out of the way and unveils the boxes. Inside them, they found fire extinguishers and water purifiers, so Mao asks Lucifer what they're for, and he explains that he fell for a purchasing scam. While Mao wonders what that is, Emilia explains that it's a trick where some people show up pretending to be interested in buying things you don't need, but eventually trick you into buying stuff from them instead. Annoyed, Mao asks how much he spent, and Lucifer reveals it's 128 zizens yen. Afterward, Emilia checks through the PC and finds the address of the company. She then suggests that Mao call the number, but when he does, the company says that the goods can't be returned. Infuriated, Mao decides they'll have to negotiate with them directly. The next day, Mao and Emilia head to the company and are surprised to find Ashia working there. After they explained the situation to him, Ashia revealed he was the one on the phone and explained that he had to follow a manual when dealing with customers. Just then, Ashia realizes he's been working as a pawn of the devil and says he can't stay in the company any longer. The president then shows up and asks if something was wrong. In response, Mao asks if he's the boss, and the president points out that the terms of the transactions were mentioned in a clause. Confused, Mao says it's just a scam, but the president disagrees and says it was a transaction done on mutual agreement. On their way home, Ashia apologizes for failing as Lucifer's guardian. Just then, Emilia gets an idea and asks Mao how old Lucifer is on Earth. When Mao says he's not yet an adult, Emilia says there's something they could do. The next day, they visit a lawyer who explains that a minor would need his guardian's approval to sign a contract, and since Lucifer was registered as one, the contract is invalid, so the company returns to get its goods. Months ago, after Mao, Ashia and Emilia left in Ta'ila, the church got rid of what was left of the demon army. While the purge continues, a mysterious woman walks into the Demon King's castle and extracts a small orb from a plant on the balcony. Back in the present, Ashia is throwing a fit, so Mao asks what crawled up his cheeks, and he answers that he's fed up with their living situation. He then opens the wardrobe, where Lucifer casually lounges, to ask his opinion, causing the unsuspecting idiot to fall. Lucifer thinks Ashia is acting out because he hates how Mao went from ruling demons to flipping burgers like SpongeBob, and he went from being a demon general to being a first-grade waifu. However, Ashia screams at Lucifer, saying his sour mood is because of him, as his decision to become a useless NEET is draining their finances. Eventually, his rant shifts to barley tea that is remaining in the fridge, and as he gives Lucifer an unwanted lecture on refilling the jug, Mao prepares to go to work. As Mao opens the door to leave the apartment, he bumps into Emilia, and Ashia exclaims that Emilia was eavesdropping on their conversation. Emilia assures them that she didn't have to do that since his voice was as loud as a megaphone and could be heard from a mile away. This leads to more complaints from Mao, but he stops short when he senses something in the corner of their apartment. However, he brushes it off and heads to work. Once Mao is gone, Ashia tells Lucifer that he'll begin searching for a part-time job, as he doesn't want to continue leeching off the Demonlord. Lucifer couldn't care less what Ashia plans to do, but Ashia informs him that he has to step up now and take over the household chores. He promises to put him through household cleaning boot camp, and Lucifer isn't pleased with the idea. Meanwhile, Mao arrives at his workplace and meets Chiho outside. The two exchange pleasantries, and when Chiho asks about his new bike, the Demonlord turns into one of those enthusiastic car geeks. He tells her about its specs and says that he named it Dullahan Roman II. Chiho asks how he could afford such an expensive bike when his bank account was emptier than Goku's head, and he reveals that Suzuno bought it since she was responsible for him losing the first one. Back at the apartment, Emilia talked with Suzuno, who disclosed she bought Mao a new bike. Surprised, Emilia points out that she's currently unemployed, but Suzuno assures her that money isn't her problem as she'd sold off the stuff she took from the church. Just then, Emilia senses the presence of someone watching them and suspects it could be another assassin from heaven. When she mentions that Mitsuki might be after the sword again, Suzuno disagrees and explains that the angel has other interests now. Speaking of Mitsuki, he is now a fatty with an unhealthy obsession with Mayumi, and after getting ignored by her that day, he orders 10 large Big Mac meals with a side of fries and cola. After he leaves with his order, Mayumi emerges from the back room and says she's grateful that the shameless simp contributes to their sales. However, she hoped he'd stop showing up bouquets and trying to riz her up. Just then, a young boy accompanied by his grandmother comes in and places an order, and for some reason, it causes Mao to reflect on the strange presence he had sensed at the apartment earlier. Chiho notices his mind is elsewhere and questions him about it. but he tells her that it isn't the right place to talk about it. Back at the apartment complex, Ashia instructs Lucifer on how to do laundry and explains the benefits of using a semi-automatic washing machine. As Ashia and Lucifer bicker about the laundry, Suzuno and Emilia overhear their conversation and comment on how boring and bothersome it is. Continuing his laundry lecture with Lucifer, Ashia demonstrates how to fold clothes. During this, Lucifer picks up on an unknown presence, believing it to be something he calls Bladula Germanica, and he tells Ashia. Ashia dismisses this notion, saying he'd ensured that their home can't be invaded, and then leaves to run some errands, leaving Lucifer to finish the laundry by himself. Later that day, Mayumi gives Mao and Chiho permission to clock out early, so Chiho asks Mao if she can visit his apartment to deliver some flax stalks to Suzuno. He tells her she can drop by. However, he feels uneasy about her visiting due to a storm brewing in the sky. Meanwhile, Lucifer is vacuuming the apartment when he encounters the invisible intruder, but fails to gain the upper hand. Soon after, it starts to rain, much to his dismay, as he had hung the laundry out to dry. Just as he resolves to redo the laundry, he sees something in the pile of clothes and screams like a little girl. Coincidentally, Mao and Chiho had just arrived, so they rushed inside to see what was wrong. To their surprise, they find Lucifer struggling with a cockroach, and Chiho screams. Emilia and Suzuno also rush out to see what is happening, and a commotion ensues when the cockroach lands on Mao's arm. In the end, Suzuno gets rid of the roach with her large hammer, and after this, they all go outside to light the stalks. While they are doing this, a gate suddenly opens, and a giant apple drops out. Emilia points out that strange things always happen when she's around Mao, and the Demon King bites back, saying it's not his fault she's always following him around like a lost puppy. This leads to an argument, and when Mao mentions Emilia's lack of melons, she gets mad and tries to delete him. As she moves to strike him with her sword, Mao holds up the apple to defend himself, but surprisingly, arms sprout out of it, catching Emilia's blade mid-strike. The apple then transforms into a little girl who falls asleep after sneezing. They take her inside Mao's apartment, and just as Emilia and Mao start arguing again, she wakes up. Thankfully, she can speak Japanese and introduces herself as Alas Ramus. She sneezes once more, and a crescent moon appears on her forehead, something only Mao notices. When he inquires about her parents, she shocks everyone by claiming that Mao and Emilia are her father and mother.
Mama!
Seeing their reaction to her words, Alas Ramus begins to cry and then hugs Emilia, seeking comfort. This makes the hero uncomfortable, but when the others stare her down and complain about her behaving like a heartless witch, she caves in and consoles the girl. Soon, Alas falls asleep in Emilia's arms, prompting the group to debate why Alas believes Mao and Emilia as her parents. Chiho says she probably imprinted on them since they were the first people she saw after hatching. Lucifer doesn't care about that, as he's more interested in knowing how the peep squeak knows Mao is Satan. Mao deduces she might have heard someone mention it, and Ashia theorizes that the person is the one who sent her through the gate. He wonders if this is another one of Mitsuki's plans, but Suzuno doesn't think so. They speculate that her parents live on Ta'ila, but aren't certain if they are friends or foes. Lucifer then asks what they will do with the girl until whoever sent her through the gates shows up. This question leads to another brainstorming session, and in the end, Mao decides that Alas Ramus will live with him and his generals. The following day, after archery practice, Chiho drops by the convenience store to pick up some items before heading to Mao's apartment. Upon arriving there, she is greeted by Ashia, who looks like a malnourished vampire. He explains that Alas Ramus just fell asleep after crying throughout the night, wanting to know where her mama was. Chiho then shows Ashia the supplies she brought for Alas Ramus, which makes him emotional, and he thanks her for helping them. The next moment, a knock sounds at the door, and Suzuno walks in with the bento and drinks that Ashia had requested. He makes it clear that he won't thank her for her good deed, and as he brings out his wallet to pay her, Lucifer suddenly pops out from the closet, asking if it's time to eat. Ashia quickly closes the door in his face, saying a parasite like him didn't deserve any food. Just as Suzuno begins talking about how Alas Ramus's cries kept her up the night before, the girl wakes up and starts asking for Mao. When she doesn't see him in the room, she starts crying, making the adults worry. Meanwhile, Emilia was at work, and because she looked tense, Rika asked if there was a problem. Emilia tries her best to explain the situation, but ends up making it sound like she and Mao have a child together, surprising Rika. Back at the apartment, Chiho changes Alas's diaper, which impresses Ashia since neither the clueless noob nor his master thought to check it during the night. After he thanks her help, she explains that she has experience babysitting because she babysits her cousin's kid. She then turns her attention to Alas Ramas and introduces herself to the girl who struggles to pronounce her name. Eventually, she does, but Suzuno tells her to address Chiho as her big sister since Chiho is older and Alas does. The girl is so excited by this, so Chiho tells her to do the same for Suzuno, and when she does, Suzuno becomes flustered by her cuteness. Later that afternoon, Emilia finally explains her relationship with Alas to Rika, noting that Alas somehow sees her as a mother. Rika finds it strange, but doesn't see a problem with it and advises Emilia not to get involved if she doesn't plan to stick around the girl. Emilia explains that she just wants the girl's time there to be an enjoyable one. Hearing this, Rika gives Emilia some tickets to an amusement park that their company is partnered with and suggests they all visit together. Meanwhile, Suzuno and Chiho show up at Mau's workplace with Alas, and the Demonlord nearly craps his pants. He asks why they brought her, and Chiho explains that the girl has been crying for her papa all day, so they had no choice but to bring her to him. Alas excitedly calls out to him, prompting the other employees to think the child was his and Chiho's. Just then, Mayumi pops out of nowhere like an evil spirit and asks to speak with Mao and Chiho in the break room. When she takes Alas into her arms, Misuki shows up and sees her. Immediately, the dim-witted fool assumes the child is hers, but they don't try to explain things to him and leave him with Suzuno. In the back room, Mayumi listens to Mao and Chiho's explanation and then lectures them about how their relationship with Alas could be misinterpreted by society. However, she also advises them on what to do and allows Mao to leave early to take care of Alas. After she leaves, Mao speaks to Chiho and pleads with her to continue helping him take care of Alas for a while longer. He tells her she's the only human he can trust with the task and apologizes for trying to exploit her, even though he has yet to respond to her confession. Hearing his words makes Chiho cry tears of joy, which surprises Mao, and she vows to continue helping him with Alas. Just then, Mayumi returns and offers them tickets to the same amusement park Rika suggested for Emilia and Alas. Later at Mao's apartment, the group discusses who will go to the amusement park with Alas. After going back and forth on the issue, it was decided that Mao and Emilia would go with her. Later, Emilia laments this decision in her apartment but is interrupted by Emirata's call. Although she is a bit flustered, she maintains her composure and, after assuring Emirata that everything is fine on her end, she tells her about Alas. Emirata says she knows nothing about the girl but promises to look into it before hanging up. At Mao's apartment, Ashia voices his displeasure with Mao going to the park with Emilia. Mao assures him that Emilia isn't crazy enough to attack him in public, but Ashia points out that someone could come for Alas. As he continues trying to persuade Mao to reconsider the outing, Suzuno suggests that he follow the two on that day. Days later, Mao takes Alas to meet with Emilia so they can go to the amusement park. Ashia follows them closely, but his disguise makes him stick out, and when Chiho sees him, she calls him out for it. He asks why she's there, and she explains that Suzuno filled her in on the situation, so she's come to help him. As they are discussing, Rika shows up, and when they ask why she's there, she explains that she couldn't resist observing how Emilia and Mao's date would go. Meanwhile, near a withered tree in Isla, a robed man accompanied by soldiers passes through the gate to Earth, and Lucifer senses it. At the amusement park, Emilia and Mao visit a store to buy Alas a hat, and while there Emilia asks Mao how long he intends to look after Alas. He replies that he will continue to look after her until she grows up or her birth parents arrive. This leads Emilia to question whether he would return to Isla to help his demon army. To her surprise, Mao admits that he has long abandoned that idea and says that he's sure his army was wiped out a long time ago. After they left the store, Ashia, who was still watching them with Rika and Chiho, rushed to check the price of the hat Mao bought. He nearly had a heart attack. Unaware of their broke status, Rika asks why he looks like he's seen a ghost, and Ashia responds that he's fine. Later, as Mao, Alas and Emilia walk around, Emilia is lost in thought, but her thoughts were soon interrupted by Mao, who told her that Alas wanted to see a low-budget Power Rangers show. They then go to purchase the tickets, and when the show starts, Alas and Mao are excited. However, when someone is pushed off the stage, Alas begins to feel sad. She talks about her friend getting pushed from somewhere, and suddenly, the crescent mark appears on her forehead again. Mao quickly covers it with her hat, and they decide to take her outside to find out what the problem is. Outside, they place Alas on a bench, and Emilia notes that she doesn't have a fever but thinks she should still have a cold drink just in case. While Mao goes to fetch one, a woman dressed in white approaches Emilia and inquires if everything is alright. Emilia explains that Alas doesn't feel well, so the woman holds up her hand and uses her ring to help Alas, which makes Emilia wary of her. Seeing this, the woman assures Emilia that she is not their enemy. However, when she calls Alas by her name and says she's glad she grew up well, Emilia becomes more defensive. The woman then warns her to be careful, saying that the real enemies have already realized that Alas possesses one of the Yesod shards. She also warns that Gabriel and his heavenly regiment are on the move. But before Emilia can question her, Mao calls her name. By the time she returns her attention to the woman, she sees that she's gone, so when Mao arrives with the bottle of water, he is unexpectedly punched in the face by the angry Emilia. After she's done scolding him for letting her lose sight of the woman, they make their way to the Ferris wheel. Ashia and the girls soon show up and continue tailing them after losing sight of them because Ashia had to make a quick stop at the bathroom. Before getting on the ride, Mao's group has their picture taken, which Emilia disapproves of. While they are boarding, Rika's group arrives, but Chiho is separated from them because she goes to help an elderly lady and her grandson buy tickets. On the ride, Emilia inquires about the mark on Alas's forehead because she noticed that Mao recognized it. From their car, Ashia laments not being able to hear what Emilia and Mao are discussing, but his attention is soon drawn to Rika because he notices that she seems distracted. When he asks what the problem is, she claims she's upset about leaving Chiho behind, but in reality, she is secretly freaking out about being alone with him, as she suddenly realized she finds him attractive. Back in Mao's car, Emilia insists that he answer her questions, so he takes a trip down memory lane, telling his villain origin story. According to him, before he became the Demon King and united the Demon Realm, it used to be a violent place where demons engaged in mortal combat daily. One day, one of those muscle-headed demons attacked his clan and wiped them all out in the blink of an eye. Mao was the only one left, and as he stared at his parents' lifeless bodies, an angel showed up. He weakly tried to attack her and got beaten up, but surprisingly, she let him live and even took care of him. While his wounds healed, she talked to him and taught him so many things. Mao found it weird that an angel would save a demon, so he questioned her motives, and she said it was because he was the first demon she'd ever seen crying. On the day she disappeared, she told him about the human realm and gave him a moon-shaped crystal, which she asked him to plant and cultivate to learn more about the world. After his story, Mao asks Emilia how Alas came back to normal, and she explains her encounter with the woman. She tells how the lady cured Alas and also mentions what she said about Gabriel coming after the shard of Yesod. This revelation prompts Mao to karate chop Emilia's head, which confuses and surprises her. He then asks Alas to name the colors of her balloons, and Alas does this, but calls them by names Emilia doesn't recognize. Mao explains that the names Alas called are names of the world-forming orbs which grow on the Tree of Life. He also says that Alas may be an incarnation of Yesod, one of the orbs. After getting off the Ferris wheel, Emilia buys the photo for Alas, and just as they are about to leave, they receive emergency calls from Lucifer and Suzuno. When they arrive at Mao's place, they find that Lucifer and Suzuno are being held by Gabriel and his men. Gabriel tells them that he is there to take Alas and Emilia's sword, but Alas says she doesn't want to go with him. She calls Gabriel a bad man and accuses him of taking her friends away, and Emilia says she won't give him her sword. Gabriel tries to convince Mao to give him Alas, but Mao refuses, so Gabriel goes all Saitama in him. Despite this, Mao still refuses to give in to Gabriel's demands, so the angel tries to make him submit by using his powers on him. Before he can achieve this, Chiho suddenly shows up and stands between them, surprising everybody. Gabriel tries to tell her that she has no plot armor, but she is determined to prove she's not an average NPC and stands her ground. She then tearfully pleads with him not to take Alas away after giving a speech on how awesome Mao and his friends were. Moved by her actions, Gabriel agrees to wait until the next day and leaves with his soldiers. Afterwards, when Ashia returns home, he finds Mao and the others discussing and learns what happened. Mao repeats that he isn't giving Alas to Gabriel and says he's ready to fight him when he shows up the next day. He then shocks everyone by requesting that Emilia spend the night. After the shock wears off, Mao orders Ashia to escort Chiho home, and after the duo leaves, Emilia questions Mao's reason for asking her to spend the night. Mawu reveals that she's his insurance against Gabriel, as she will help fight the angel to keep Alas safe. Emilia then asks why they both have to share a room, and he says it's because he wants Alas to spend at least one night with her. This makes Emilia recall the conversation they had earlier with the others about the Tree of Life. According to Suzuno, the Tree of Life is a tree in heaven which continuously creates the world. The tree's 10 fruits are called the Sephira, and they each have a component they govern. The 9th Sephirat, Yesod, governs the non-physical world, and its guardian is Gabriel. From what Gabriel told them, the components which Yesod governs are in danger, so it needs to be returned to the tree to maintain universal balance. However, Suzuno believes everything Gabriel said is a load of crap, as there is no physical proof that the Tree of Life is sustaining the world. In the present, Emilia asks Mawu if he truly intends to pick a fight with Gabriel, and he replies that he is ready to put his life on the line for his kid. Emilia says that it is the cringiest thing she's heard him say, but Mawu doesn't care and continues speaking like an enlightened guru. When he finishes, he suggests they go to bed, which excites Alas and freaks Emilia out. In Suzuno's apartment, where Ashia and Lucifer are spending the night, she asks Ashia why Mawu decided to lead his demon army to conquer Ta'ila. To help her understand better, he talks about her refrigerator, saying that it allows her to store food which she can eat at any time. He then compares it to the demons and says they were also looking for a convenient and easy life, which is why they invaded Ta'ila. Back in Mawu's room, he turns off the light, and as he lies down, Alas pulls both him and Emilia closer to herself. Emilia doesn't like this, but Mawu tells her to suck it up for Alas's sake, because he also doesn't want her to inhale his putrid odor. As they lay there, Alas requests a bedtime story, so Mawu tells her a sugar-coated, happily ever after version of his backstory. The following morning, when Emilia wakes up, she is shocked to find Gabriel in the room with them. Immediately, she instinctively draws her sword and points it at his neck, but he tries to reason with her, insisting he only wants to talk. The next moment, Mawu wakes up, and when he sees the scene before him, he quickly grabs Alas and cradles her to his body. He questions Gabriel's presence at his apartment so early in the morning, and the angel reminds him of their deal. Gabriel then offers a compromise, stating he is fine with taking one of the 2 things he wants from them. He also reveals that pieces of the Yesod shards are inside Emilia's sword and Alas, which surprises them. Just then, Ashia and Suzuno start banging on the door from outside, demanding to be let in, as Gabriel has sealed the door using his powers. In desperation, Mawu grovels at Gabriel's feet, offering his head in place of Emilia's sword and Alas. Gabriel asks Mawu why he's so hung up on a kid who isn't his, and Mawu answers that Alas is the symbol of hope he gained after receiving a second chance at life. He pleads with Gabriel not to take this hope away, but Gabriel refuses, and when he tries to say something, Mawu cuts him off. He then reveals that he knows the legend of the Kung Fu Panda, the ancient King Satan. This angers Gabriel for some reason, and he starts choking Mawu with his powers before saying he will isekai him. At that moment, an angry Alas stands between them and declares that she hates Gabriel. She says one of her friends told her that he's a liar and that he separated them and locked them all up. As she spoke, her mark glowed, and she told him she'd never forgive him for bullying her parents. The next moment, she went full Saiyan on him, sending him flying out of the apartment through the wall, so Emilia chased after them. Mawu is freed from Gabriel's hold, and the barrier he placed on the door goes down, allowing Suzuno and Ashia to enter. When Emilia catches up with them, she engages Gabriel in battle, but he uses his sword to shatter her sword. Meanwhile, at the apartment, Mawu asks Suzuno to take him to where the fight was happening, but Gabriel's men arrive and try to stop them. Thankfully, Lucifer arrives and compels them to stand aside, allowing Mawu and Suzuno to leave. When they get there, Suzuno flings Moyu at Gabriel, and as the Demonlord clings to him, he urges Emilia to shoot both of them down. Emilia refuses because she doesn't want Alas to witness his death. Just then, Gabriel pushes Mawu off him, and the Demonlord braces himself for a colorful date with Florkun. However, Alas saves him using her magic. She promises Mawu that she'll be with him and Emilia forever and then flies off, leaving Mawu confused. When Gabriel sees that he failed to isekai Mawu, he tries to attack him again, but Emilia shows up in her armor and takes him on. They fight until she breaks Gabriel's sword in half, and he decides to retreat, but promises to return for the shards. Emilia asks why he's desperate to collect them now after so many years, and he tells her to reflect on herself and what fighting against him means. He also tells her something else that leaves her completely stunned before he leaves. Emilia then floats down to meet the others, and when Mao asks where Alas is, she gives him a sad look. That evening, Emilia meets Chiho at a cafe to discuss the morning's incident. While they are talking, Alas suddenly pops out of nowhere, and that's when Emilia reveals that Alas had fused with her broken sword. Chiho believes it's a good thing since Mao believes Alas is gone. However, Emilia laments that it is not because she can't bear the thought of slaying Mao with Alas. Later that evening, they visit Mao and find him sitting outside after having lit a fire in remembrance of Alas, whom he believed to be lost forever. Feeling sorry for him, Emilia brings Alas out, making Mao happy beyond words, and he takes her inside to have dinner. That night, Gabriel meets with Mitsuki, and they discuss his failure to retrieve the sword and Alas. Gabriel also complains that he doesn't know where the third piece is, but Mitsuki says it is with Layla, the person who originally stole Yesod and who also happens to be Emilia's mother. Weeks later, Mao is sitting alone in the dark break room of his workplace, laughing like a maniac until Chiho comes in and turns on the light, startling him. It turns out that he was secretly admiring pictures of Alas and didn't want anyone to see him being a complete girl dad. Ignoring his creepy behavior, Chiho informs him about the meeting they were having. During the meeting, Mayumi reminds the staff about the closure of the restaurant for renovations. Mao is shocked to hear this because on the day it was first announced, he was all depressed over losing Alas, so he wasn't paying attention. That evening, when Mao returns home with Chiho, they meet Suzuno and Emilia taking things out of Suzuno's apartment. Mao asks Suzuno if she's moving out, and she hands him a notice from the landlady. After reading it, he learns that they are to temporarily vacate the premises until the apartment complex is fixed. Mao is shocked by this news and rushes into his apartment to speak to Ashia and Lucifer, but finds them lying on the floor. It seemed both of them were still in shock after learning about the notice, and Mao made things worse by informing them about his temporary unemployment. Eventually, after they stop being overly dramatic, Ashia shows Mao the package the landlady sent to them 2 weeks ago. Emilia opens it and discovers a videotape inside, and since none of them owned a VCR, Chiho suggested going to her place to watch the tape. At Chiho's house, they meet her mother, and after exchanging pleasantries, they go to the living room to watch the video left by the landlady. In the video, she apologizes for the inconvenience the repairs will cause and tells them about her niece in Chiba. She says the girl runs a beach shack and needs some extra hands, so she suggests they go work for her in exchange for room and board while the repairs are ongoing. A phone number is provided, so Mao contacts the girl, and they agree on when they will start and a mouth-watering wage. After hanging up the call, Mao tells Emilia, Chiho, and her mother what was agreed upon, and Chiho voices her concerns about having Lucifer work since he is the epitome of laziness. Later, when Mao and Emilia return to the apartment complex, they inform the others about the arrangement. As expected, Lucifer complains, but after Suzuno and Emilia call him out for being a useless freeloading bum, he agrees to go with them. Back at Chiho's place, her mother lets her know that she's aware of her crush on Mao, which shocks her. Surprisingly, she isn't against it and tells Chiho that she will not try to stop her crush as long as she doesn't engage in extracurricular activities with Mao. That night, Suzuno asks Emilia if they would also go to Chiba to keep an eye on Mao and the others. Emilia answers that they might not need to do that, as she doesn't think they will get up to no good. She also says that they need to be around to protect Chiho in case Gabriel decides to return. However, if Chiho's mother were to allow Chiho to travel, the three of them would go on the trip together. The following day, Mao drops by the restaurant and informs Mayumi about his new job in Chiba. Mayumi is glad he found another job, but asks if he will return since she considers him to be her right-hand man, and he assures her that he will. Just then, Chiho comes in, so Mao offers to accompany her after she picks up her belongings. On their way out, they run into Mitsuki, who confronts Mao about the restaurant being closed. He said he declined Gabriel's offer to team up, so he expected that Mao would have informed him about the closure of their restaurant. Since Mao just stared at him like he was an idiot, Mitsuki shifted his attention to Chiho and tried using some of his non-existent riz on her. Chiho turns him down and questions him about his discussions regarding Gabriel's offer. Mitsuki reveals that Gabriel approached him to help retrieve Emilia's sword and Alas. He explains that he was sent to retrieve Emilia's sword without knowing the full details surrounding the shards of Yesod. He was still explaining when Mayumi arrived and saw them. After assessing the situation and concluding that Mitsuki is harassing her staff, she bans Mitsuki from the restaurant until further notice. As Mao and Chiho continue on their way, Chiho expresses concern for Emilia since Mitsuki had mentioned that he knew where her sword was. Mao says it's none of his business, but she reminds him that Alas is part of the sword. As their conversation continues, it shifts to how inadequate Chiho feels with the recent turn of events and her waiting for an answer from Mao regarding their relationship. The conversation is halted when they run into Ashia, who was on his way back after purchasing a suitcase and various beach supplies. As they converse, Chiho asks if Emilia and Suzuno will also go to Chiba, and they tell her that they don't know their plans. Recalling her mother's words, Chiho makes up her mind and calls the woman to ask for permission to accompany Emilia and Suzuno to Chiba. On the day of the trip, the group takes the train to their destination, and upon arriving at the station, Mao contacts the landlady's niece. Chiho buys some rice crackers for herself and Alei, and since she's with Emilia and Suzuno, she expresses her concern about Gabriel's plans to take Emilia's sword. Emilia assures her that everything will be fine and then gives her a comforting hug. Outside the station, the landlady's niece greets the group and introduces herself as Amain. She then drives them to her beach shack, where she shows the guys their accommodations, after which she takes them to her beach shack. The place is dirty, dusty, and filled with cobwebs, but after analyzing the situation, Mao negotiates with Amain, stating that if they can fill the shack when it opens the next day, she will give them a bonus. Once Amain agrees, Mao instructs Ashia and Lucifer to help him clean the place. But the girls insist on helping, so he assigns tasks to Emilia and Chiho, while Suzuno is left to babysit Alas. As the work is ongoing, Alas comes to show Mao the elaborate sandcastle Suzuno built. Impressed, Mao asks her to build another one beside the shack, and she agrees. By evening, they are done cleaning, so they spend time on the beach lighting firecrackers. Alas notices light on the water, and when she draws everyone's attention to it, Amain tells them about the local legend about Marinyasa. It is said that the ghosts of the drowned appear on fishing boats and try to sink new ships to get new friends. While she's speaking, the lighthouse foghorn sounds, startling Alas, who starts crying as the fog begins to roll in. Amain then offers to take the girls to their inn since Alas refuses to stop crying. She leaves Mao and the others in charge of cleaning up the beach, and as Ashia does this, he sees what looks like a giant walking towards the shore. Later, while in their room, Lucifer hands Mao his phone so he can read the text from Chiho. She informs him that they are at their inn and adds that Amain has gone off somewhere in the fogs. Lucifer speculates that she went home, but Ashia is worried and wonders how she can move around in the thick fog. It dawns on him that they didn't know much about Amain, and as he's about to mention this, the lighthouse foghorn goes off again, startling the trio. Ashia is the first to get over it, and he draws their attention to the figure approaching their cabin. Since the fog is so thick, they speculate who and what the figure is, wondering if it is one of the spirits Amain talked about. It turned out to be a cyclops that fainted after cursing the limited vision of that world. Mao's group was surprised by this and soon encountered a centaur who mistook them for humans and asked if they were hostile as well. Ashia mistakenly spoke in Japanese at first, but Mao corrected him by speaking in their native language and introduced himself to the centaur. However, the centaur drew its sword, but before it could attack, a giant tornado swept it away, along with the Cyclops. At that moment, a large humanoid black bird fell from the sky, and Mao recognized the figure as Cameo. As another tornado began to form, Lucifer spread his wings to blow away the fog and create a path leading to the shack, so they rushed to take shelter. Back in their shack, the tornadoes could not penetrate its walls, and once again, the lighthouse horns blew as the fog began to clear. It was then that Mao's group reintroduced themselves to Cameo, who recognized their true identities and expressed his gratitude that they were safe. Cameo then informed Mao that Intaila was once again in chaos. However, before he could continue his explanation, a bright light enveloped him, and he transformed into a small bird. The following morning, Amain contacted the group and encouraged them to enjoy the beautiful waters at the beach. Yet, Mao was preoccupied with thoughts about the situation in Intaila and why Cameo, who was injured, was there instead of guiding his forces back in the demon realm. Later, Mao checked on Cameo, who had taken shelter in a cardboard box. Cameo assured him that he was fine and hadn't completely lost his magical energy. Relieved, Mao left to help at the beach shack, where his group was diligently performing their tasks. However, their efforts were not enough to manage everything, so Emilia, Chiho, and Suzuno arrived to assist them. Amidst this, Mao pulled Emilia aside to inquire about Alas's whereabouts, and Emilia replied that Alas had gotten tired after swimming, leading Mao to believe that she was now in her sword form. While performing a task outside the shack, Ashia asked Mao if the previous day's incident was caused by an angel. Mao mentioned that the Cyclops claimed a human was responsible, and suspected that Olba might be behind it. Afterwards, Mao relaxes at a table, grateful for a successful day, while Chiho serves him a cola, which he thanks her for. Amain then points out that Chiho wasn't the only one who helped that day, drawing attention to Suzuno and Emilia. Although Mao offers a half-hearted thank you, Ashia insists that he should properly compliment them for their recent assistance. Ashia's enthusiasm leads to him getting hurt, and soon after, Lucifer asks Emilia, who is cleaning the ice shaving machine, what her thoughts are on Olba after he betrayed her. This perplexes Emilia, so Lucifer explains that he initially accepted Olba's offer because Olba promised to spare his life and speak favorably about him in heaven. His decision was influenced by the defeat of the demon army in the Antaila, leaving him with nowhere to go. Lucifer also suspects that Olba was using him as a bargaining chip to elevate himself to the status of an angel, hoping to use Emilia as a trump card. This suspicion arises from Lucifer's belief that Olba knew that Emilia's sword and armor contained shards of Yesod. Before their conversation ends, Lucifer shares with Emilia the incident that occurred the previous night. Later, at the cabin, Mao introduces Cameo to Chiho, Emilia, and Alas, who instantly takes a liking to Cameo. She begins chasing him around the room as Mao tells the girls about how Cameo was the smartest demon he knew and brags about how he was the brains behind the demon army. The next moment, Alas trips while trying to catch Cameo, so Emilia picks up the bird and threatens to cook him. Chiho tells the mama bear to calm down and explains that what happened wasn't Cameo's fault. She then tells Alas to apologize to Cameo for chasing him around, and she does. As Mao recounts what happened the previous night with the demons, Cameo calls his attention. Understanding his confusion, Mao explains that Chiho knows the truth about them, so Cameo thanks her for helping his king. When Mao introduces Emilia and Alas to Cameo, the Birdman is puzzled that Mao associated himself with the hero and her sword. Mao tells him to try and understand his situation, and reminds him that Ashia was once their enemy. Cameo finds this somewhat logical. However, he is still wary since logic doesn't always align with emotions. After this is settled, Mao inquires about the short sword that Cameo brought from Antaila. Just as Cameo is about to respond, Amin knocks on the door, asking to come in, so Mao puts Cameo back in his box. When Amin walks in, she tells Mao that it's time to clean up and asks them to assist her. Mao agrees to help, but before he can leave, a frightened Cameo reveals that Amin was the one who defeated him and the demons who had come with him. Later, after the group cleans up the shack, Emilia texts Mao asking him to come to the lighthouse with the guys, without letting Amin know. The boys honor Emilia's invitation that night, and when she arrives, Cameo tells them what brought him to Earth. He recounts how a human visited the demon capital and told the demons that whoever retrieved the sacred sword would gain supremacy over the demon realm, heaven, and Antaila. It turned out that after Mao came to Earth, the demon realm split into two groups, the hardliners and the pacifists. Both sides disagreed with each other, and Cameo had been doing his best to keep the peace, but once the human came, that peace was destroyed. The worst part of it all was that he told the demons that there were two sacred swords, one of which belonged to Emilia. Since the human, who was later revealed to be that bald-headed backstabber Olba, knew where Emilia was, the hardliners left the demon realm with him. As their discussion continues, Cameo reveals that Olba had provided them with a clue which led them there when they used it. Emilia then reveals that a unit of hardliners is on their way to try and retrieve the sword, making Mao panic. Emilia says she is willing to engage the troops when they arrive, but Mao points out that she can't handle an army of demons alone. Cameo tells him that he has an idea which can help them avoid an all-out battle. Just as he begins talking about his plan, he is interrupted by a large gate opening in the sky. Using his powers, Lucifer scans the gate and confirms that it is the demon army, so Emilia drinks a holy vitamin drink and sets off to confront them. Mao asks Cameo for the sword he brought with him from the demon realm, and Cameo realizes that he left it back at the cabin. After scolding the rip-off angry bird for forgetting such an important item, Mao instructs Ashia to go get the sword. The demon general rushes off, but accidentally trips since he is unused to wearing flip-flops. Before he can stand up, Amin shows up holding the sword, and surprisingly, she gives the sword to Mao. She says she will not get involved with the fight and asks Mao to clean up the mess that followed him to her home. Mao then unsheaths the sword, and the next moment, a bright red light envelops him, making Amain say he is indeed a demon from another realm. From outside their inn, Suzuno and Chicho try to observe what is happening by the lighthouse, but the fog is too thick. Suddenly, Amain shows up, and Suzuno takes on a defensive pose, but the woman assures her that she comes in peace. She says that Mao and the others promised to take responsibility for what was happening, but also says that if things went south, she would intervene. Seeing the doubtful look on Suzuno's face, Amain tells her not to underestimate her and then goes on to reveal her airbending abilities, surprising the girls. Meanwhile, Emilia is engaged in a battle with the demons, and although she is greatly outnumbered, she manages to hold out against them. Seeing this, their leader, Siriato, orders his men to stand aside. Using the shard of Yesod in his possession, he confirms that the sword in her hand is the one he's searching for. He also recognizes that Emilia is the hero and challenges her to a one-on-one battle, which she accepts. As they begin fighting, Mao, Ashia, and Lucifer show up in their true forms and address Siriato. At first, he doesn't believe that Mao is Satan, but when Cameo shows up and confirms it, he and the other demons are shocked. Immediately, they bow in respect, as Siriato explains that their actions were in the best interest of the demon realm. He reveals that they only pretended to be fooled by Olba's lies so they could retrieve the sacred sword. Emilia then asks to see the necklace he used to identify her sword, and after he hands it to him, she sees that it is a linked crystal. Siriato explains that Olba had told them that the crystal's light would guide them to the sacred sword, so they followed it there. In light of this information, Mao orders Siriato and his men to the demon realm and tells everyone that he is still alive and has the sacred sword in his possession so that peace would return to the realm. He also tasks Siriato with helping Cameo to maintain the peace, and Siriato accepts his new role. Once he was done giving out instructions, the demons lined up and were transported back to their realm by the light of the lighthouse. Once all the demons are gone, Mao, Ashia, Lucifer, and Emilia use their combined powers to close the gate. Afterwards, when everything has been settled, Amain informs them that she no longer requires their services, which surprises them. She also informs them that their apartment has been fixed before explaining that she was dismissing them because they were too intense for her customers. Just then, Chiho calls Amain's attention to the shadowy figure sitting at a table in the shack. The shadow runs off before Amani can say anything, and that's when the group notices a large number of shadows in the water. Amain then confesses that the story about Murin Yasa was a lie. She explains that the truth is that the souls of the dead come there to wash their souls, and that she and her father are its guardians. However, the magic the group used had distorted the place, and they were on the verge of losing their human shapes, so they had to leave. With that, Amain snaps her fingers, and she and her shack disappear in a gust of wind. A pamphlet for local attractions and envelopes containing 50,000 yen each fall from the sky. Later, while they are sightseeing, Emilia asks how Moyu, Ashia, and Lucifer regained their demon form during the fight. Mao explains that the sword Cameo brought with him was his horn, which she had broken off. Olba had brought it with him when he tried to negotiate with the demon army, and inside the sheath of the sword was a fragment of Yesod. Mao then gives the shard to Emilia, who accepts it, but asks if he isn't worried that it will make her more powerful than him. Mao is confident that he will regain his power and tells Emilia that when he does, he will dominate her and everyone else. His choice of words shocks the dirty-minded girl, and the equally dirty-minded Chiho tries to confirm that Mao wasn't talking about foreplay. Days after they return from Chiba, Chiho and her father are enjoying some soaked rice crackers while her mother brings them tea. Just then, the phone rings, and after Chiho's father picks up, he learns that it is his brother on the line, and he has some shocking news. At Mao's apartment, Ashia is doing the dishes when Emilia comments that despite the repairs, nothing has changed in the apartment. Ashia disagrees with her notion and proudly states that the leaky faucet has been fixed. Alas mimics his gestures, and as Mao praises her for it, Lucifer makes his presence known. He asks Mao when he will start looking for a job since the restaurant is still closed. Just as Ashia gets all up in his face and tells him to shut up, Chiho walks in. Mao greets her, and she asks if he's open to taking a job out in Nagano. The next day, Mao, Ashia, and a very carsick Lucifer sit in the back of Chiho's mother's car as she drives them to Chiho's grandparents' house. While making conversation, Mao accidentally says something about Dark Lords, which confuses Chiho's mother. When she asks what he means, he quickly corrects himself. saying he was talking about black bears. This prompts Ashia to inquire about the wild boar that attacked Chiho's grandmother. Chiho's mother claims that Chiho's grandmother only suffered minor injuries, but adds that all the part-timers quit because of it, leaving their farm short-handed. This is why Chiho had asked Mao if he was interested in taking a job in Nagano, and Chiho's mother thanked them for accepting the job. Chiho then asks Mao why he didn't invite Emilia and Suzuno to accompany them, and he replies that he needs a break from the two because they are more clingy than an obsessed girlfriend. Just then, Ashia spots a building which resembles a kappa, and when he asks about it, Chiho explains that it's a museum dedicated to the kappa. Hearing this, Ashia geeks out and gives a detailed lecture on the kappa's background, mentioning that it is known to steal a human shirikadama, which renders them gutless. As they approach their destination, Chiho's mother explains that aside from the streets, their family owns all the farmlands, which shocks the guys. When they finally arrive at the house, Chiho's aunt greets them and instructs Chiho to show them to their room. As Chiho guides them inside the house, Ashia and Mao are astonished by the size and can't help but compare it to the cardboard box they call an apartment. Later, they sit with Chiho and the rest of her family, who introduce themselves to them. When Chiho's grandma joins them at the table, Chiho points out that she should be resting, but the old woman claims that she's fine. Mao and Ashia then suck up to her, saying they will ensure that they work their butts off on the farm, much to Lucifer's dismay. Later, Hinako, Chiho's sister-in-law, drives Mao, Ashia, and Lucifer to the fields to give them a preview of the work they would be doing. She shows them the portion they will be working on and explains the 2 types of vegetables grown in the area before assigning them to start weeding. By the time they returned home in the evening, the guys were exhausted. Ashia and Lucifer passed out, so Mao was the only one awake when Chiho came to inform them that her cousin had invited them to visit the local hot spring before dinner. After arriving at the hot spring, the group agrees to meet at the lobby at 6:30, but before they go their separate ways, Alas suddenly shows up. Mao and the others are equally surprised when Suzuno and Emilia come running down the hallway. As Mao chews Emilia out for stalking them, Kazuma and Hinako ask who they are. Just then, Alas addresses Mao and Emilia as Papa and Mama, shocking Kazuma and Hinako. To avoid exposing their secret, a fabricated backstory about Alas is told to the couple. Emilia then asks if she and Suzuno can work at the farm for the duration of Mao's stay, shocking Mao, Ashia and Chiho. In their room later that night, Emilia apologizes to Suzuno for dragging her to work on the farm, but Suzuno understands. Meanwhile, at Chiho's family home, Mao lies awake, unable to sleep, when he hears Chiho knocking on the door. When he answers the door, she tells him she wants to speak to him about Emilia. They go outside to discuss, and Chiho asks if he knows why Emilia wants to work on the farm with them. Mao inquires if Emilia told her the reason, and she says it was Suzuno who told her that Emilia has mixed feelings about them doing farm work. It turns out that Emilia hates the idea of demons working on the farmlands because of what they did to her hometown. Mao says he doesn't blame Emilia for distrusting them, and Emilia tells him that she wishes all the people she cares about would find happiness together. In response to this, Mao says that Emilia would rather kiss a pig than forgive him. As they begin heading back, they are unaware that a black bear is watching them from the nearby forest. The following morning, Mao and the guys are woken up by Emilia, who speaks to them like a drill sergeant. When Mao and Ashia go down for breakfast, they are surprised to see that Suzuno is serving food. She throws a jab at them, prompting Mao to lose his temper and clap back, but she ignores it and asks where Lucifer is. Just then, they hear a commotion coming from upstairs, making it clear that the demon general was getting a good beating. After breakfast, everyone assembles at the fields, and Kazuma assigns everyone their tasks. Back at the house, Chiho, who was tasked with watching the kids, bids her mother farewell. As she watches the car pull away, she wonders how Mao and the others are doing. In the greenhouse where Mao and Emilia are harvesting eggplants, Emilia lectures Mao on why vegetables are harvested so early in the morning, discussing the pros and cons of harvesting. Hearing how knowledgeable she was about plants, Mao recalls his conversation with Chiho from the previous night. This makes him feel bad, and when Emilia notices his solemn look, she tells him that he better not regret what he and his demons did to her hometown, as she's not ready to forgive him. Mao tries to speak, but she cuts him off, saying that their issues shouldn't be a hindrance to the work they were assigned to do. Later in the day, Mao and the guys are in their room resting, but he and Ashia feel they ought to be helping instead of resting. They then decided to go downstairs and ask Chiho's grandmother to assign them some more work. When they meet her, the woman tasks them with taking Hitoshi, Kazuma's son, to his mother since the boy has been looking for her. Accompanied by Chiho and Alas, Mawu and Ashia take Hitoshi to Hinako in the fields. Soon after, they reunite Hitoshi with Hinako, but a black bear suddenly appears nearby. Although they try to sneak away quietly, Hitoshi's cries alert the bear to their presence. Hinako tries to comfort the boy, but he refuses to be comforted, so Mawu instructs Ashia to take Chiho, Hitoshi, and Hinako to meet with Kazuma while he and Emilia stay back to handle the bear. Once the group has moved away, Mawu gives Emilia the signal to engage the bear, but before she can do that, a passing car honks loudly, startling the animal. Agitated, the bear charges at Mawu and Emilia, so Emilia is forced to tap into her inner sumo wrestler to stop it. She attempts to push the bear back, but it stands its ground, so she knocks it out by doing a shoulder throw just as Kazuma arrives. Later, at the house, Lucifer reads the news article on the bear, while Emilia sits in a corner praying for the ground to swallow her up. Some reporters were stationed outside, trying to find out more about the She-Hulk who single-handedly took down a bear, but Hinako tells them to leave. Lucifer teases Emilia about her unwanted fame, and she gets up, saying none of this would have happened if the car hadn't honked. Just then, she's interrupted by Suzuno, who comes to inform Emilia that Kazuma wishes to speak with her. Sitting across from Emilia, Kazuma bows his head and thanks her for protecting his family, which surprises her. After he leaves, Suzuno admits that she had planned to tamper with Kazuma and Hinako's memories. However, after seeing how they handled the situation, she decided against it. She says it's probably because of her friendship with Chiho and lets it slip that Mawu and Ashia have dubbed her the Bear Slayer. Emilia is furious when she hears this and attempts to go crack open their heads, but Suzuno stops her. Meanwhile, out in the fields, Mawu and Ashia assist Manji, Chiho's uncle, with the vegetables. As they round it up, Manji talks about how Hinako and Kazuma expanded their farm business through various means, and shows the solar panels which powered the greenhouses. Mawu is impressed by everything the man said, and as he stares at the fields, he tells himself that he finally understands why the demon realm warred non-stop until he united it. It so happened that the reason demons fought so much in the demon realm was due to the lack of magic in the air. Having magic meant demons didn't require food, leading him to believe that societies cannot exist without food or its production. Upon returning to the house that evening, Mawu and Ashia found an old man talking with Yumiko. After greeting him, Manji introduces him as Onda, the president of the neighborhood association. Onda then reveals that there have been cases of produce theft in the area recently. Later, in their room, Mawu and Ashia brief the others about what Onda said and express their worry that the thieves might hit their farm next. Lucifer suggests they patrol the farm, but Ashia says it's impossible since the place is big and there aren't enough people to patrol. He asks Chiho what Kazuma plans to do, and she tells him that her cousin is trying to come up with countermeasures. Suzuno notices Mawu is deep in thought, so she asks him to share his thoughts. Mawu breaks down the timeline of each theft and says that since they are perishable items, the thieves must have already sold them off. He speculates that the thieves are using a small and fast car to move the stolen produce to where they have to sell it. Connecting the dots, he deduces that the thieves were the ones who honked their horn at the bear. He says that they will likely target Chiho's family farm because they know that no one would want to step outside after a bear attack. The group then discusses ways to catch the thieves, but can't decide how to do it with just 5 people. This is because Mawu doesn't want to involve Chiho and her family in the situation, but Chiho's grandmother, Ai, overheard their conversation and decided to help. Using a satellite view of the surrounding area from Lucifer's laptop, I created a rough road map, labeling what each area was growing and which roads would be suitable for a car to navigate. Looking at the map, Lucifer notes that the thieves might not be after the farm vegetables, but rather the solar panels. This makes things easier for the group, and they come up with a plan to catch the thieves in the act. Mawu ends up getting paired with Suzuno, who complains about his uselessness since he has no magic. As they keep watch, a pickup suddenly drives by, so Suzuno roughly drags Mawu down with her. Mawu notes that it's not the car they are looking for, but says they should contact Emilia just in case. He tries to stand but accidentally grabs a handful of Suzuno's melons and earns himself an uppercut. She then tries to pull out her hairpin so she can end him, but Mawu begs her to spare him. Just then, the car they were looking for pulls to a stop nearby, and one of the individuals gets out of it. Suzuno uses her magic to help her see inside the car, and she tells Mawu that there are 4 guys in total. After the one who got out returns to the car with the watermelon he stole and they drive off, Mawu sends a text to Emilia. Shortly after Emilia receives the text, the car pulls up and the guys get out, so she takes a video of them. As they try to leave with one of the solar panels, Ashia comes out of hiding and confronts them. One of the guys tries to attack him, but Ashia easily defends himself and pins the guy to the ground. Seeing this, his friends ran back to the car and drove off, prompting Emilia to pursue them. Suzuno intercepts them midway, using her brute strength to lift the car just as Emilia landed on its roof and used her sword to tear into the roof before prying it open with her bare hands. The two in the car got so scared that one of them pissed his pants. The one who manages to escape unfortunately runs into Mawu, who transforms into his demon form and puts the fear of God back into the guy. By the time Kazuma, and Chiho arrived at the scene, the police were there, gathering information from Mawu's group about what had transpired. Days later, after they returned to the city, Mawu's household received a package containing several watermelons and plenty of vegetables from Chiho's family. Emilia also receives a package, and while she's sorting it out, she hears the news about the theft case on the television. This makes her recall the conversation she had with Suzuno before they returned home. They had wondered how Mawu transformed, and Suzuno speculated that Mawu had siphoned some demonic power from the local relics at the Kappa Museum to temporarily regain his Devil King form. Back in the present, Emilia receives a phone call from Imarata, who asks if she has made contact with her mother. Emilia is surprised by this information, as she never knew her mother and wasn't even sure the woman was alive. Intrigued, Imarata tells her about a particularly weird woman she met and says she's certain that the woman is Emilia's mother. Emilia keeps thinking of what Imarata said even while she's at Suzuno's place, so Suzuno, noticing that she's troubled, asks what the issue is. Before Emilia can respond, they are interrupted by the shouts coming from Mawu's apartment. Immediately, they rush over there, believing that they are under enemy attack. However, they are surprised when they discover that the commotion was caused by an argument between Mawu and Ashia about getting a television. Ashia tries to convince Mawu that they do not need a television, but Mawu refuses to listen. Mawu says that he didn't insist on getting one before because the refrigerator and washing machine were their top priority. However, they now have some extra money thanks to the jobs they took, and he was ready to buy a television. Ashia asks why he's so determined to buy a television, and Mawu says it's because Emilia has one, revealing that he also wants to watch television with Emilia. Understanding his plight, Ashia suggests they contact their real estate agent and ask if the television is included in their lease. He says if it's not, then they will not discuss the issue again, but Emilia speaks up, saying her building's rent included the television fee. This makes Ashia call her a blabbermouth because he had wanted to trick Mawu into giving up on the idea. But now, thanks to her, his plan has failed. Ignoring Ashia's admission, Mawu asked what the budget limit for a television is. Ashia does some calculations and, after summing up all the extra money they made from their part-time jobs, concludes that it is 20,000 yen. He hopes this will discourage Mawu, but the Demonlord laughs and reveals that he has a point card which has accumulated over 6,000 yen, much to Ashia's dismay. That night, Emilia walks home with Suzuno and Chiho because Suzuno decided she also wants to buy a television and wants to see the one Emilia has, so she can know the type to buy. As they walk, Chiho asks Emilia if she wishes things could remain as peaceful as they are, and Emilia says she doesn't mind. This makes Chiho repeat what she said to Mawu about everyone being happy together, and Emilia tells her that it's only possible in her dreams. At the train station, Emilia and Suzuno reflect on what Chiho said about happiness while waiting for the train. Emilia wonders how long their peaceful life will last, and Suzuno tells her that they may end up doing something that opposes their mission, like protecting Mawu. On the train ride to Emilia's apartment, Suzuno explains what she meant when she said they will have to protect Mawu. According to her, now that the demons are aware that their king is alive, they may try to convince him to rebuild his army. She said that if that ever happened, Mawu wouldn't have the heart to refuse them and would return to the demon realm. Understanding what she meant, Emilia asks if she's accompanying Mawu to the mall because she wasn't supposed to keep watch over him. Suzuno says it is, but adds that she truly wants to purchase a television so it will be a win-win situation for her. She tells Emilia that she doesn't mind that they are living in a comfortable bubble and says she wasn't to enjoy it while it lasts. Just as Emilia warns her that hanging out with Mawu and Ashia will be boring, her phone vibrates with a call from Rika. When they get to her apartment later, Emilia goes to the balcony to speak with Rika on the phone. Rika is nervous and makes her promise not to laugh before asking what kind of clothes she thinks Ashia likes. This question leaves Amelia dumbstruck, but she eventually responds that Ashia likes cheap clothes since he's always trying to save money. Rika then clarifies that she wants to know what kind of clothes Ashia would like to see on a woman. Before Amelia answers, she inquires about Rika's motivation, to which Rika flusteredly admits that Ashia asked her to go shopping with him. On the day of the shopping trip, Mawu speaks with Ashia about why he invited Rika along, and he explains that it is because she's knowledgeable about modern-day Japan and its technology. Later, as Mawu, Ashia, and Suzuno leave their apartment, they don't notice Gabriel approaching the place. Meanwhile, Amelia is at work, but she's emitting so much negative aura that her co-worker Maki asks if she's been arguing with Rika lately, noting how flustered Rika appeared the other day, leading her to take the day off. This remark causes Amelia to have a couple of outbursts as she imagines Rika on a date with Ashia. Her outburst prompts her superior to suggest that she leave work early, so Amelia decides to go looking for the shards of Yesod. Back at Mawu's apartment, Gabriel visits Lucifer, who isn't too pleased to be in the same space as him. Gabriel helps himself to the things in the fridge and then asks Lucifer why he chose to work for Mawu after falling from heaven. Lucifer answers that it was out of boredom, which piques Gabriel's interest, as his reason for visiting was to learn more about Satan. Lucifer tells him to question Mawu himself, but Gabriel clarifies that the person he's asking about is the legendary demon king Satan and not Mawu. After hearing this, Lucifer dismisses his words and returns his attention to his laptop, making Gabriel complain. Soon, a discussion about Gabriel's status as a NEET begins, and after that, Gabriel asks Lucifer to tell him about Satan's treasures. Surprised, Lucifer asks how that relates to his mission to collect the Yesod shards, and Gabriel admits he has been removed from that case. Elsewhere, Amelia buys a vial and puts the shard she got from Mawu inside it so she can use it to locate the other piece. While staring at it, she recalls how her conversation with Emirata shifted from her mother to the war, which had broken out because of the Efsahan Empire. According to Emirata, there were rumors that the Efsahan Empire had demons among their ranks. Amelia told Emirata that she would return to help, but Emirata asked her not to, stating that doing so would undermine her credibility as a hero. Emirata also mentions that Layla is in Japan, and Amelia questions how she knew she was her mother. Emirata explains that she spent some time with Layla, and when she disappeared, she left a note thanking Emirata for being her daughter's friend. Back in the present, Gabriel receives a list from Lucifer detailing the treasures Satan possesses. As he prepares to leave, Gabriel informs Lucifer that the angel known as the Watcher is around, which shocks him. When Lucifer starts questioning the Watcher's presence in Japan, Gabriel ignores the question and gives him his phone number, asking him to call if he remembers another treasure. On Amelia's side, she infuses divine energy into the Yesod shard and begins following the light emitting from it. Elsewhere, Chiho walks home with her classmate Kao, and when she mentions that Ashiwa and Mawu are out shopping together, the girl mistakenly assumes that they are a couple. Upon arriving home, Chiho goes to watch television, but as she turns it on, a bright light suddenly comes from it, causing her to pass out. Meanwhile, Rika applies a fresh coat of lipstick in the bathroom before going to meet Ashia. She is disappointed to see that he isn't alone, but since he's an oblivious idiot, he doesn't notice and gives her the souvenirs he bought in Chiba. After taking them from him, Rika asks what the purpose of their shopping trip is, and Suzuno and Mawu tell her that they want to buy a television, while Ashia says he needs her help to buy a phone. Rika says she has no problem helping Ashia pick out a phone, but tells Mawu and Suzuno that she isn't very knowledgeable about televisions. Ashia is sure that she's knowledgeable enough because she has purchased one before. Rika then says she wants to upgrade to 4K soon, prompting Ashia to ask what she means by that. Hearing that Ashia doesn't even know what 4K means, Rika suggests they go to a restaurant to eat and discuss their plans before heading to the electronics store. They go to a udon restaurant which offers low prices for their meals, and Ashia is impressed since he's more of a cheapskate than Mr. Krabs. While eating, Suzuno praises the udon and says it is absurd that they sell it at such a low price. Rika then asks what kind of televisions they want to buy, and Mawu says he doesn't care as long as he can watch shows with it. Hearing this, Rika asks what his budget is. He proudly states that it is 26,239 yen. She finds this oddly specific, so Ashia explains that it is because they are broke. When she asks Suzuno for her budget, the girl tells her that it is 70,000 yen, and Rika assures her that she will get a good set with that. Suzuno is happy about this and thanks Rika for helping since she doesn't know much about electronics. The next moment, she gets up to go order another plate of udon, but stops when she notices a man with an afro at the counter. The man is trying to request a fork, but because he's speaking English, the staff doesn't understand him. Seeing this, Mao steps in and speaks Japanese on the man's behalf to clarify his request to the staff, and the man thanks him. Outside the restaurant later, the man calls someone on the phone and complains that the person led him astray. This was because whoever was on the other side assured him that English was the country's language when it wasn't. He then tells the person that he got a lead on what he was searching for, but when he got there, he ran into a girl who reacted dramatically to seeing him. Before hanging up the phone, he tells the person that he is going to start his second job of the day. Elsewhere, Amelia continues to follow the light from the Yesod shard, hoping it will lead her to Layla. Surprisingly, it leads her to a hospital, where she meets Chiho's mother, who informs her that Chiho has been hospitalized there. Shocked, Amelia follows the woman to Chiho's room and sees the girl lying in bed. Meanwhile, Mao and his friends visit the electronics store to buy the televisions, and Rika suggests that Ashia approach a salesperson with Suzuno so they can get a discount for buying too. This plan excites Ashia, who gratefully thanks Rika, causing her heart to race when he takes her hands. Mao then approaches Rika, snapping her out of her daze, and directly asks if she has developed feelings for Ashia, prompting her brain to overload. Sometime later, Mao sits at a table with Suzuno while Ashia and Rika shop for a phone. The two discuss Rika's feelings for Ashia, and when Mao explains how he asked Rika about it, Suzuno punches him in the face and scolds him for being a clueless fool. When she finally lets go of him, she points out that, unlike Chiho, Rika doesn't know the truth about them, and because of that, it isn't advisable for her to get closer to Ashia. Mao disagrees and argues that they should be honest with Rika about their backgrounds, highlighting both the pros and cons of being transparent, but Suzuno doesn't share his opinion. As Mao continues his conversation with Suzuno, Ashia and Rika talk about his relationship with Suzuno. Ashia tells her that their relationship is complicated, but says he hopes he can tell her all about it someday. Feeling a bit bummed out, Rika suggests they come back together another day to purchase a phone, and Ashia happily agrees. Suddenly, all the TV screens in the store explode, causing everyone to worry. Mao instructs Ashia to escort Rika back to her apartment. After they leave, Mao tells Suzuno they should contact Amelia, but is surprised when she calls Suzuno to tell her that Chiho has contracted magical poisoning and is in a coma. Immediately, Mao and Suzuno go to the hospital to see Chiho, and while there, her mother tells them how she came home and found her unconscious. Ashia arrives shortly after this, and as they sit outside Chiho's room, Suzuno does some calculations. Amelia tells Mao about how the shard led her to the hospital, and as they are trying to figure out what it had been reacting to, Chiho's mother comes to tell them that she's stepping out. After she leaves, Suzuno finishes her calculation and explains that Chiho's coma was brought upon by a sonar pulse that someone had set off. Just as she says, she isn't sure what the pulse was directed at. The television in the room suddenly breaks the same way the ones at the store did. They immediately rush to check on Chijo, and on the way, Suzuno explains that it was a sonar pulse that caused the television to break and also made Ashia and Mao's hair stand on end. Lucifer soon joins the group, and he tells them about the Watcher being around, adding that the Watcher is the one responsible for the sonar pulses. When they were all gathered in Chiho's room, he revealed that Gabriel is searching for the legendary demon King Satan's treasures, and Mao wondered why that is. The conversation soon shifts to Regal, the Watcher, and Lucifer reveals that Regal's job is to declare final judgment. This makes them speculate what the angel's true mission is, and Amelia says they are probably searching for her mother. After Chiho's mother returns, the group moves outside as Lucifer explains the tasks of a Watcher. He also shares that Regal was once paired with Mitsuki, and after he explains everything he knows about Regal, Mao asks Amelia and Suzuno to help them fight Regal to avenge Chiho. The girls readily agree, and when Alas awakens from her nap, Mao asks if she wants to go with them, and she says yes. Meanwhile, inside the hospital, Layla visits Chiho in her room and places her ring on Chiho's finger, stating that she will one day become the mother of a new Doth. To pinpoint Regal's location, the group climbs to the top of a tall building with a clear view of the two broadcast towers in the city. Lucifer suggests that Amelia set off a sonar pulse so they can locate him, but she rejects the idea, saying she doesn't want to deal with angry customers whose phones blew up the next day at work. Instead, she proposes that they split up and search the towers, and after choosing a tower, she uses her divine boots to head towards it. Since they didn't have any powers, Mawu and Ashia took public transportation to their designated tower. Upon arriving at their destination, Mawu and Ashia discuss how best to ascend to the top of the tower. Meanwhile, Emilia finds herself at the other tower, but discovers that Rhaegal is not there. Instead, Gabriel drops in on her. After a brief confrontation, Emilia demands to know Rhaegal's whereabouts. Gabriel tells her that Rhaegal isn't there and says he was merely maintaining his sonar waves. He then offers to share some intriguing information that Emilia might want to hear. At Mawu and Ashia's tower, they begin to tire as they walk up the stairs, while Lucifer and Suzuno keep watch from their building. Lucifer soon gets bored and tells Suzuno to set off the sonar pulse to hasten the search. Back at the hospital, Chiho awakens from her sleep and receives a phone call from an unknown person, who reveals that her ring contains a shard of Yesod. At Emilia's tower, Gabriel continues to talk with her about the interesting information he has while sipping on a can of coffee. Emilia then asks why her mother is being hunted, and Gabriel responds that heaven is on the verge of splitting in two. Surprisingly, it is because of Emilia, as her existence as a child of an angel and a human was designated a heavenly crisis. They don't want to risk the world finding out that angels aren't any different from humans. Additionally, Gabriel informs her that Layla isn't the only target since her father, Nord Justina, is alive and currently on Earth, which shocks her. On Chiho's side, she speaks with Layla as she heads to the hospital roof to discuss her battle plan to save those in Inteila. Meanwhile, Suzuno drinks a holy vitamin drink, piquing Lucifer's interest. Using her celestial force, Suzuno detects the locations of both Gabriel and Emilia, as well as where Mawu and Ashia are. Just then, Chiho floats up in a ball of light and tells Suzuno to stop using her celestial force just before they are ambushed by celestial knights. Suzuno fights the knights while Chiho conjures a bow of light and fires an arrow that emits a wave of celestial energy throughout the city. Meanwhile, Mawu and Ashia feel a surge of Suzuno's sonar pulse signals, so they go outside to investigate it. Outside, they run into the guy from the udon restaurant, and Mawu learns that he is Rhaegal. Just then, the magical residue from the celestial energy Chiho released causes Mawu and Ashia to transform into their demon forms, and Mawu vows vengeance against Rhaegal. Meanwhile, Alas tries to talk to Emilia, who is stuck contemplating the revelation that her father is alive and on Earth. This newfound information causes her to reconsider her goals, which had largely been centered on avenging her father's death. Back on Mawu's side, he threatens Rhaegal, but Gabriel intervenes to mediate the situation. He reveals that Emilia is having an existential crisis after learning about her father's survival, prompting Mawu to declare that Gabriel cannot read the mood. Not wanting to remain any longer, Rhaegal tries to leave, but Mawu prevents him by punching him in the face and chastising the angel's motives. Rhaegal eventually manages to escape, and when Mawu attempts to pursue him, Gabriel stops him. At the same time, Alas manages to uplift Emilia's spirits after listening to her question and doubting herself. As Mawu continues to battle Gabriel, Ashia joins him in the fight. However, Gabriel still holds the upper hand. Just then, Rhaegal's screams are heard as he falls, and when they look up, they see Emilia, who doesn't hesitate to join them to fight against Gabriel and his clones. At some point, she is overwhelmed by the clones, but Mawu intervenes. He then restrains the original Gabriel long enough for Emilia to launch a successful attack against him. As Gabriel falls, Rhaegal regains consciousness and demands that the demons and hero stand down, as heaven's future hangs in the balance. Suddenly, Chiho shoots an arrow into Rhaegal's back, causing him to lose his celestial powers. Realizing that they have been defeated, Gabriel flees the scene with Rhaegal, using his celestial powers. Emilia tries to speak to her mother, but the woman says there's no time. She then instructs Chiho to fire an arrow that lifts the barrier surrounding the area, halting the dispersal of magic and returning Mawu and Ashia to their human forms. The following day, Mawu visits Chiho at the hospital to discuss her interactions with Layla the day before. While they talk, Chiho reveals that there are memories in her head which do not belong to her. These memories show her a young demon who seems very sad, staring at the sky. As Mawu listens to her, he realizes that someone else is speaking through her and demands to know who she is. The person asks how he can forget her, making him realize it is the angel who saved him years ago. She reveals that her goal is to restore all the realms to their true forms and says it is no coincidence that he came to Earth. Confused, Malu continues questioning her, but she keeps talking and tells him that he has to find Anteila's doll and restore the world to its original form. Shortly after saying this, Chiho regains control of her body, and Mao tells her to keep Layla's ring as a good luck charm. Do you think Layla has a hidden agenda? If you've watched up to this point and loved the video, comment peek. Also, check out the next video. See you guys in the next video.